DRIV3R was a sales hit, but players found it to be full of bugs, glitches, and was terrible on foot. Reflections promised Driver Parallel Lines would fix everything, but it was a sales disaster. Was it any good though? This question can only be answered with science. Cow science. Hi! Welcome back to another episode of Koobert Opens Worlds, the preeminent ranking of every single drivey shooty open world crime game that ever did exist. I'm your host Koobert, and today I'm going to take a look back at the Driver series with a deeper dive into Driver 1 and 2, a look at the context of the games released in 2006, break down Parallel Lines' story beat by beat, compare versions, including the bonkers Wii port, see what Parallel Lines does great, what it does not so great, and finally rank the game against every other drivey shooty crime game I've reviewed so far. I finished the game on PS2, PC, Wii, and Xbox, with all the console games playing through on original hardware, though the Wii version is mostly running on Wii U, and this video will be switching through footage of all four. But don't worry, I'll label it anytime I change versions, so you'll know. As this is the second Driver game in the Cow series, I suggest you check out my video on DRIV3R first, as it's got a longer look at Reflections, and I'll be comparing the two games as well. Or you can be a little rascal and watch this one first. Naughty. And if you want to skip the preamble and get straight to my review of Parallel Lines, head to 2634. Before we get into Parallel Lines, I decided to give the previous Driver games another kick in the can. I hadn't really sat down and played Driver 1 since 1999, and I'd only played the first couple of missions in Driver 2. Driver took the tech behind Destruction Derby 1 and 2 and applied it on an open world setting. This open world would read as quite primitive now, but featured 4 cities, a variety of building and road types from high-rises to mini-malls and industrial sprawl and suburban houses. The driving model, paired with the recently released DualShock dual analog controller, is still a treat to come back to now. It's strange how addictive and candy-like its simple missions are today, like ram-raiding a series of restaurants, or Chase HQ style smashing into an armored police car enough times that its occupant gets out. The animation of the little guy getting out of the car, or really walking through the car, is just adorable. The driving feels perfect right out of the gate, and it's only the loading times, menus, and overall UI that really end up letting the game feel its age. The polygonal house you look around in and choose from the undercover mode's different options and missions almost feels like a retro game's pastiche of the 1990s graphics.
You have one new message.
Driver 1 is British racing hard at times, but you can finish it. I can, and it's not that I'm good at video games, I'm not. I give up on Super Mario 3D Land every time I try it after I die a dozen times on one of the first levels, and it gives me that pity golden invincibility leaf that will let me clear the level without dying. I don't need your pity leaf, Nintendo. Don't put that trash on me. Let me be terrible. I figured I'd play through the end of Miami to get a refresh on what I liked so much about Driver back in 1999, and see how it holds up a quarter century later. Turns out, I still love it. Given that the second city is San Francisco, the much more dynamic chases that result, with the elevation changes causing plenty of bullet-style jumps and crashes, are a highlight of the game world. Things were smooth until I got to the mission The Briefcase, which requires that you make pickups along a predefined route, then back to Russian Hill, then off to around MacArthur Park where you meet with Maupin. Is that named after Amistad Maupin? It is very, very difficult not to get completely destroyed by the cops during this run, unless you are lucky and careful about avoiding cop contact. So I've never managed to get past this with more than, say, 10% vehicle health left. But, you'll notice it doesn't offer you the chance to save, just continue. And this means that the next leg of the mission, where you have to make a pickup across the Golden Gate Bridge, will start with you at the same damage level as before. When you make that pickup, oh boy, there's another leg back to the city after that. I thought to myself, it can't be that bad. I've done this before. But then I had a vivid flashback to 1999. When Steal My Sunshine was playing. I had wraparound sunglasses and lived inside a speaker, and I was stuck at that mission. And the only way to get unstuck was to start the game over and choose The Mall instead, a mission where you go to a mall. And pick thieves up and get them to a safe house. But still, like a quarter the length in difficulty. That's right, Driver also has branching mission paths, something I didn't even realize until this playthrough. Via the answering machine, you'll have a variety of missions you can choose.
Cowboy, I got a briefcase needs exchanging, there's a card with a number under your door. Now, if you're interested, call.
Come see me down Fisherman's Wharf. I got myself some sworn-off action in the trunk. Yuppie's gang are looking out for these hardies, so I need a driver who can punch it if he gotta. This disco your beat?
I got a visit lined up to a mall. Should be sweet. Just short of a driver to complete the picture. I know you got what I need. This in your line?
You both call me losers, and I don't see you out there walking children in nature.
I always thought that would just alter the order in which you do the missions, but nope. You can select a mission path that may play out over one mission or be several missions long. So the briefcase? Not even a mission set that you have to do. It's just one of a choice of mission series for you to tackle. So if you do find one punishingly hard, check out the other options on the answering machine. This game really benefits from juggling a few saves for sure. Either way, there are going to be some missions that you absolutely have to do, especially at the start and end of each city. For instance, with Miami, you're always going to take jobs from Rufus and rescue Jean-Paul. One thing I noticed with Driver 1 in particular on PS1 is how sensitive the analog input on the game is. Early analog games, especially on N64, tended to have very delicate and sensitive inputs, which have been dialed back to less sensitive ones in modern games because that degree of control can be figuratively, but also kind of mentally exhausting. I like how tricky the aiming is in GoldenEye due to the amount of precision, but I really like it for Driver, and I think it adds to the appeal of driving in that first game. So I swapped over to Driver 2 to see how far I could make it in that one. First, I noted that its dead zone is larger, meaning that you don't have to do as fine inputs as are required by Driver 1. And the model feels more like DRIV3R and parallel lines as a result. Has two tough missions early on in Chicago: follow the train and escape to the safe house. Follow the train is a fast-moving train in a series of alleys that you have to navigate, but the real last boss of the game rears its head here. You have to walk up the ramp to the train. And Tanner controls very, very badly on foot. They're tank controls, basically, with X being the walk forward button, making Resident Evil 1 seem like an easily controlled classic in comparison. Well, honestly, I do think Resident Evil 1 is easy to control. Tank controls are fine and you're all just babies, but that used up to walk instead of X. Editor's note, actually up also works, so the game has two methods for you to walk forward. On foot, it's still far too sensitive, and actually hard to manage to actually guide Lil Roblox Tanner to where you want to go. Jericho shows up at your apartment, who you might remember as being voiced by Mickey Rourke in the last game.
If you can't stand the heat, get off of Mickey Rourke's sex grill.
He is not voiced by Mickey Rourke here.
Jericho? It's okay. I'm gonna shoot you in the head.
I must admit that my lack of experience until now with Driver 2 means I didn't know that the pre-scripted chases with invisible enemies weren't just a DRIV3R thing. As you pursue Jericho to Solomon Kane's giant warehouse complex, and hitting his car does nothing. This is emphasized by the lack of a health bar for his car. At least, after that one predetermined chase, you have the fantastically inventive get out of the warehouse mission. You start on foot, and there's one of two cars there. I went for the sweet coupe that looks like the one Jericho was driving before, and now basically you have to navigate a sort of puzzle maze to get out of Kane's warehouse. It's tricksy because the exits keep getting blocked by vans and trucks, channeling you through multiple warehouses. Once you eventually get on the street, mere meters away from your destination, you'll find it's blocked by trucks too, and a death van is after you. This van is, Terminator 2 style, only intent on destroying your ride. So you have to figure out how to get around this blockade. It took me several tries to perfect this run, but essentially you have to go north, turn right, and then weave through the warehouses on the other side of the street and go around. Please enjoy this replay of the mission. Though the replay, as driver replays are wont to do, forgot that I actually did complete this level and ends with my car on fire, something that did not happen on the actual run-through. After this, you've got to escape from Chicago at night in a thunderstorm in an impressively moody implementation of what your professor would call sympathetic fallacy. And it looks great. Makes me bummed there wasn't more weather stuff in DRIV3R or parallel lines. Tanner and Jones follow a lead out of town to the hottest spot north of Havana. There, at the Copacabana, music and passion are always in fashion, but at the Copa, don't fall in love. This area looks fantastic with a density of digitized textural detail. Didn't really see a lot of it in PlayStation 1 games. Of course, you go back and compare the depiction of Chicago and consider this game was released in 2000, the limits of the driver engine and the PlayStation 1 at the time come into sharp relief. Compare it with, yes, once again, the expansive modeling of Chicago for the PC hit Midtown Madness, and you can see the PlayStation 1 was aging out of being at the cutting edge of graphics technology. But Midtown Madness has a more cartoony look, even with real locations and real cars. You do get a better sense of what the real Chicago's layout is like, though, even in this truncated version. I'm always going to go back to Midtown Madness as a touchstone for what graphics were like around the turn of the century, as its style, I think, influenced the way the city is presented in Grand Theft Auto 3, and therefore all open-world games going forward. Both swap map accuracy for a sketch of the city, one that has a lot of playground elements for you to explore, which adds a more fun overall open-world experience. I recorded the game again on PS2 to be completely thorough, and noticed that, back to back, whoa, Driver 2 runs way less well than Driver 1. I mean, the draw distance is pulled out and the environments are way more detailed and look great, especially standing on the other side of the room. But this does come at the expense of frame rate, and the faux reflections on the cars are gone. Both games look fantastic at night, and the rainy chase through Chicago is a highlight of the PS1 graphics, as are the crunchy digitized texture details of Havana. While I think overall Driver 2's music is more generic dad rock than the first, it does have a neat element where the tracks are layered in when the chases begin, accentuating the danger. That's cool. And then there's DRIV3R. Again, you should go back and check out my cow entry on this game, where I go into DRIV3R in exhaustive detail, and there's not much more new I can share. This big budget, star-studded game may never be released again, but it's still playable with some tweaking on PC. I took the time to actually go through and remap the controls so I could get driving working on an Xbox controller, and the on-foot sections to have traditional PC and mouse keyboard controls, and it works well. It still looks a bit odd in high definition, where there's not really enough detail to fill in the blanks made by playing it at full 1080p, and at a nice locked 60 on a modern PC. Even if the game is a buggy mess, this is still peak Driver with the most money ever thrown at the series, and there's some impressive stuff in the game no matter which version you try. But the insane difficulty, glitches, and bugs, lack of anything to do in the open world, and terrible on-foot sections will always mean I can only recommend this game to those who enjoy these kind of games despite being deeply flawed. I mean, the games are deeply flawed, not the people that are enjoying the game. Well, they might be too. You have to have a lot of tolerance for the broken bullshit to get fun out of this game, but there is fun to be had. Still, it's important to be clear just how terrible this game could get on foot. For instance, playing through it this time on PC, there was a mission where you need to chase this assassin Tico around Miami. I don't remember finding too difficult on console. It starts off with you on a motorcycle and him on a boat, and you can't chase him on a boat. This game needs more boats.
We're all stars now in the Seattle International Boat Show.
And trying to navigate the beach means avoiding a bunch of instant fail death traps, but that's fine. After a checkpoint and a 3-minute chase, Tico pulls into a garage where, unless you cheese it, you get instantly shot to death by him or his guards. And you can't just wait outside and shoot them at long range because that garage door eventually closes. I decided that this was a good stopping point for the night, after the third death induced a sort of blind rage in me, where I became a whirling dervish, all fists and elbows. But that was a game from 2004. Let's move on to the future, the far-off time of 2006. Let's sink back into the nice, cool waters of 2006 for a moment. Really get into the headspace. Imagine yourself with an old-school cellular telephone. One with a non-touch screen and maybe, if you're really ahead of the curve, some kind of physical keyboard. And if you wanted to listen to music, you most likely were listening to it on some kind of dedicated iPod-type device. What a year in gaming. The 360 had launched in 2005, but this was the year it really started gaining momentum. I splurged and picked up a 360 that year with a copy of Gears of War along with Viva Pinata, Dead Rising, and Project Gotham 3. It also came with a free disc of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. I ended up loving the UE3 look to Gears of War and the art direction, though I did wish the game itself was more like the trailer.
All around me are well-known faces, decrepit places, dirty faces. Early bird is doing nothing, doing nothing. And I think it's pretty funny, I think it's pretty sad. The dreams where I'm lying are really, really bad. It's pretty hard to say it, it's pretty hard to cope. When people chase their tails, it's a really, really sadder.
An all-time great video game commercial that aired before movies and even got me interested in trying out the game. The commercial is an intense mood piece, and there's still plenty of melancholy to Gears of War, but it takes a backseat to having military men yell at you. I still finished it, and I played plenty of co-op, as well as doing some online deathmatch. Dom was, of course, an instant boyfriend.
We have a plan to end this war, once and for all.
Yeah, right.
But I found the bullet-spongy enemies and your character's low survivability kind of a slog. Viva Pinata was gorgeous. A classic from Rare with some of the best cartoony visuals I'd seen to this point. It was also a game ostensibly for children that would pelt you with dozens of different notifications, cutaways, and warnings all at once that I find nerve-wracking now, even in my 40s. I assume any kid who grew up with this game is now the type to keep a bullet journal, and who has a meltdown anytime they're accidentally late for something. It does have different mating dances for each pinata animal, complete with sexy time music. Dead Rising was the first game I saw that looked truly next generation from the PS2 and Xbox era. With its super detailed textures, great use of motion blur, and crazy amount of zombies all on screen at once. It wasn't a game that I clicked with right away, because I didn't understand that you were supposed to fail and start over, and it was totally okay to not rescue everyone on your first go. I have re-attempted this game later and just focused on building up levels and learning abilities, but confession time, I never actually got very far in this game. I get stressed out anytime those guys in the military jeep get into the courtyard.
You know how to use this?
Kinda. I've covered wars, you know.
Project Gotham Racing was a no-brainer. I love bizarre creations, and this was a real showpiece for the 360 launch. This does technically mean it's a 2005 game, but I'm going to allow it anyways because I like talking about the Project Gotham Racing series. Though it doesn't reach the graphical targets of photorealistic cars and environments Gran Turismo would aim for, it's still a great looking game. Take the New York tracks, which are full of detail, especially compared with other games about New York, which shall remain nameless. But what helps the game age well over the next 20 years is the great presentation with handheld feeling camera angles, realistic sway and movement inside the detailed cockpit, and stuff you'd never seen before like reflections on the glass. A real next generation game. Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter was not my kind of shooter, but I played it anyway since it came with my system. I had messed around with those first-person squad shooters like the original Rainbow Six and SWAT 4, but it turns out that real-time first-person squad management games are something I like in theory rather than in actuality. I guess I'm just more of a turn-based strategy guy, but compared with any of the other games I got at the launch, it shows its age more heavily. I did trade in my GameCube to get a good deal on a 360, which maybe now in the future I regret, though GameCubes are still relatively cheap right now. But why did I trade in a GameCube? Because this fellow I was dating at the time purchased a Wii, which was natively backwards compatible with the GameCube. And man, the Wii was the it device of 2006. Looking back now with folks being generally dismissive of motion controls in the casual gaming era that the Wii introduced, you might think the Wii was terrible and a waste of time. But if you were there as a kid, teen, or adult, you have to know what a massive thing the Wii was. Unless you pre-ordered one that year, you weren't going to play it. But man, we all played so much boxing that winter, and bowling, and tennis. Wii Sports was the game that sold the Wii, and for many, really the only game that mattered on the console. I disagree, but you'll have to find out more about motion-controlled gaming in yet another series I'm going to be introducing. Bears in Motion. B-I-M.
To the beam.
Suffice it to say, I have a ton of fond memories about the Wii. From having an incredible time with boxing, to spilling chocolate milk all over myself with boom blocks, to building up a digital library of the games through the Virtual Console. I do regret not getting a few games while they're out on Virtual Console, like Legendary Axe 1 and 2, and the SNES SimCity. Also released this year, the PlayStation 3.
The world is our stage, and we are the entertainment. Blu-ray to make everything more beautiful.
Sony had built this one up so hard, and it came with an exorbitant for the time price tag. We all expected it to destroy the 360 in terms of sheer computing prowess, the same way that the PlayStation 2 did to the Dreamcast. Full HD, HDMI, Blu-ray, PS1 and PS2 backwards compatibility. Did you see that demo with the rubber duckies? Holy shit! This was a console launch where Sony suggested you get a second job in order to be able to afford it. I didn't get one on launch, but I did pick one up in summer 2007, and in what was obviously a bad omen, was very easy to source. When it came down to it, some very impressive games came out on the PS3, but it's hard to say whether or not any of them truly exceeded the sort of impressive titles that also came out on 360. And for a few years, until programmers truly got comfortable with the platform, many games launched with worse versions on the PlayStation 3. By the end, I was amazed with what Ninja Theory did with games like Heavenly Sword, with its excellent animation and good for the time facial capture, even on Bjork here.
Listen to me, Kai. I want you to climb the trees and shoot at any soldiers you can see. Can you do that for me?
Twang twang. Is it playtime? Yes!
Jason!
Or there's Quantic Dream with their impressive Heavy Rain.
Jason! 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 Jason!
Okay, memes aside, it really did raise the bar for facial rendering, and it had some of the best looking environments seen on the system. Metal Gear Solid 4 I finished, but I don't think I could really tell you what happened, except there were PMCs and mechs that moved, and Raiden was a cyber ninja now. And we can't forget that The Last of Us was, for the time, the best looking game I'd seen on PS3.
What are you doing?
Killing time.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
I am sure you will figure that out.
Of course, The Last of Us and Final Fantasy XIII did use some Blu-ray shenanigans to present pre-rendered cutscenes seamlessly with the endgame material, so there were some tricksy moments involved. But both games, when really rendered by the Big Foreman grill, still do look awesome. And I did play the heck out of my PS3 fad, especially given its backwards compatibility. Mine lasted about 4 years before yellow lighting and sounding like a jet engine, but I kept on trucking with it until it finally passed away in 2016, which means that it lasted 7 whole years longer than the 360 I bought at the end of 2006, which red ringed of death at Christmas 2008. But otherwise, 2006 truly was a year of bonkers, great games. Ridge Racer 7, which promised a 1080p future on the PlayStation 3. That didn't really happen. Oblivion, which introduced microtransactions to gaming with horse armor. Okami, which showed that games could look good, perhaps even better, by going for great art instead of realistic art. Final Fantasy XII, which made sure all your characters had the floppiest hair seen to date in video games, and help you learn the truth about Deifacted Nethicite.
Quite a performance. Who are you? I play the leading man. Who else? Fran, the Magicite.
Now then, I'll take that.
Other 2006 favorites of mine? The first Tomb Raider game to be done by the new team at Crystal Dynamics. Going back now, this one is still very fun and playable, definitely worth picking up used or on GOG. 2006 also had the bizarre God Hand, which I hated at the time, but frankly might be worth covering on this channel for the sheer amount of thick fellows in leather. Maybe I'll end up loving it. That seems to happen when I give games a longer chance. Also, am I in this game? I don't remember being in this game, but it looks like I'm in this game. That reminds me, I have to grow out my facial hair or else I look like a giant baby. Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories also showed up, and that's one of the UMD games I did have before trading them all in when I got a PSP Go. As it's disappeared from the PlayStation Store, I can't show you this on PSP Go or Vita, but I have picked up the PS2 version in preparation for covering on Cow eventually. I'm planning on covering all the GTA open world games from GTA 3 onwards in chronological order, so it'll show up after Vice City, San Andreas, and Liberty City Stories. Oh, and a random game I bought because it looked neat and got some good reviews, Dreamfall: The Longest Journey. I ended up loving it, even though I'd never played the original Longest Journey.
Know how to go.
It is here. What have you done? What have you done?
What do you mean? What?
The undreaming.
Is that? What?
And who could forget one of the year's best voice-controlled hybrid RTS pinball games, Odama. One game that I did buy and finish in 2006, Driver, Parallel Lines. Driver Parallel Lines is a very different game than DRIV3R. Sure, they've both got big muscle cars screaming around corners, and both have big open world maps of real-life cities, but they approach the genre in very different ways. Driver Parallel Lines was released on March 14, 2006 in North America for Xbox and PlayStation 2, and I grabbed it day one. I was excited to see what Reflections would do with the DRIV3R/Stuntman engine with more experience under their belt, and the mixed reactions after the release of DRIV3R. It was a clean break, a new protagonist, a clearly defined time period, and a much more traditional open world model. Unlike the 4 years between Driver 2 and DRIV3R, this time there's less than 2 years between releases, a tight deadline for any game, but especially one set in a detailed recreation of a real-world city. On June 26, 2007, the game was ported over to the Nintendo Wii and PC, with the PC version being essentially a straight-over port of the console version, while the Wii version was heavily reworked by Ubisoft Barcelona. Or, reworked. That's right, there's 4 versions of this game, and the PC version is still available, both on Steam and GOG. As far as the GOG version goes, it's still very playable on a modern PC. So that means my footage here will be a good mix of all 4 versions, and I'll do a compare and contrast of each release before the final ranking at the end of the video. You get the sense from the minimal press budget around this time and the lack of big-name celebrity voice actors that this is a much more modestly budgeted release, not weighed down with the same kind of expectations that DRIV3R had for being a radical reinvention of the open-world drivey-shooty crime genre. According to the IGN preview by Douglas C. Perry, quote, "The 4th game in the series is a driver of a different color. Reflections has listened to its critics, fans, and its publisher, and this new game is an about-face in many ways. First and foremost, the longtime English developer is focusing parallel lines on driving and driving fast. 85% of the game is dedicated to the in-car experience, while 15% features out-of-car gameplay. We're told the out-of-car tidbits mostly involve switching cars rather than long dedicated segments of shooting and running. And to that we say, good riddance." DRIV3R is generally held up as a complete, buggy, unplayable mess of a game, and I can only agree with the buggy and mess descriptors, even if it's the lowest ranked game on this Koobert Opens Worlds list. And it's not a game I would recommend to anyone except those who really enjoyed the first 2 Driver games and Stuntman. But DRIV3R is still a game that I kind of liked and sometimes enjoy going back to. Each level is basically a run that you, much of the time, pretty much have to execute flawlessly. In the car, it can be a lot of fun, though it's unforgiving when you hit obstacles that will immediately stop your car in place, possibly flipping or destroying it. It had a fun selection of cars and, for the most part, controlled well. It's just that the missions were too unforgiving. With some faster loading times and instant restarts and a more Trials HD-like setup and UI, this design will work much better. Like I said earlier, the on-foot sections are complete garbage though, and deserve the expletive-filled complaints that are hurled at it. Driver Parallel Lines opens with a pre-rendered cutscene that's really more of a pop culture tone piece from 1978, which is fine even if I'm more of an in-game cinematics guy. It's a mix of stock footage, in-game art and models, and what looks like a live-action video that the producers filmed in their backyard of a model they hired to bounce around in a bikini.
I remember that girl. She cried all day.
It sets up that you're TK, short for Tonky Kong, the leader of the bunch, an 18-year-old who has come to 70s New York to be a happy dirtbag.
I was a wheelman, and I was the best. Get what you came for?
Fucking move, kid!
Tonky Kong is the spitting image of 70s-era Iggy Pop, who you might remember from such games as DRIV3R. You are introduced to him in media res as he picks up a robber, and you're immediately pursued through a fun, bloom-filled recreation of 1978's Times Square. You've got to lose the cops, drop off the robber who just isn't into small talk, and head over to Ray's, your combination mission giver, safe house, and garage. Tonky Kong is played by David Walsh, a voice actor known most for additional voices in everything from Jade Empire to Family Guy. His delivery is wry and a little goofy, and almost identical to that of Ray.
Drop me in Harlem. You gonna be able to lose him? Relax, man. Enjoy the
Ray
ride.
is, however, played by Brian Bloom, who is most known in games as playing Black Mask in all the Arkham Batman games, Nick Reyes in the Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and especially Varric in the wonderful Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition.
I've had gentler invitations.
You know, the ace-arrowed dwarf with a kink fetish for his bow Bianca. Or at least that's how I always imagined it, though technically this is disproven by the end of Inquisition. Will always have his chest hair, though. He also plays BJ Blazkowicz in the recent run of Wolfenstein games, The New Order, The Old Blood, The New Colossus, and Young Blood. Ray is a former racer who had to retire after being injured, and also just happens to be the player character in the 2007 prequel game Driver 76, following his adventures romantically pursuing the daughter of a triad leader with his bestie Slink. Speaking of Slink, voiced by Jeff Brown, best known for his role as Slink in Driver 76 and Driver Parallel Lines, you meet the famous Slink, and if you were to imagine what a character named Slink looks like and acts like in an open-world drivey-shooty crime game set in the 1970s, you'll pretty much get the picture of who Slink is. Slink is animated like a black-styled character from Fritz the Cat.
First thing, let's check you got the basics down, not you got yourself cornered by some mean-looking barrels. Squeeze the trigger, don't go snatching at it.
Which may seem racist, but also everyone else in the 1970s is animated this way, with a far-out, exaggerated stride. It is another drop in the why do humans in the real-time generated cutscenes of driver games move so weird bucket, but at this point I'm pretty much used to it. Slink suggests you grab a beat-up car for him and fix it up, showing you the general quest mechanics, navigation around the fairly hefty New York City map, and a tutorial on painting, fixing, and customizing your cars. Let's talk about presentation and gameplay here for a moment. It's a proudly 6th generation game, and not one that's pushing its machines to the breaking point with snazzy visuals and effects like True Crime New York City. You do get a ton of bloom, buildings textured from photographs, not a ton of accurate local detail, but a good shine to the vehicles, and a nostalgic orangey warm tone to the city.
Okay, there are 2 things that I remember about my childhood. I just don't remember it being this orange.
I do enjoy the loose nature of the vehicles in Driver Parallel Lines. While some of them are so tail-happy that just turning requires care, especially the big SUVs and trucks, for the most part they're pleasantly tuned. Traffic is dense, notably so for an Xbox/PS2 game. While in the previews, the developers did say up to 80 vehicles can be on screen, there's often a good 10 to 20, which rivals a lot of later 7th generation 360 and PS3 games. On PC, traffic density is part of the performance toggling. I cranked it up to maximum just to see how rough it is. Honestly, it's not too bad. One smart thing that Reflections did in designing the traffic flow in this game is usually, though not always, it leaves you with a free lane to weave through, so you're not constantly stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic. Gridlock can happen on occasion, especially when there's a cop around and you don't want to be nabbed for going on an off-road adventure and speeding around them. Actually, let's talk about the police AI for a moment, since police chases and stealthy driving around cops is such a big part of this game. Theoretically, police can initiate a chase with you and start filling your naughty crime meter for traffic infractions, including speed, dangerous driving, like hitting things in other cars, going against the flow of traffic, hitting pedestrians, and running red lights. I've tested this out quite a bit, and it seems like this works sometimes. They'll pretty much always chase you for going over whatever the speed limit is, I think around 50 miles per hour, but on PS2 much of the time I could just do donuts in front of them, and if I was going under 50 it was fine. Same with running reds and going against the flow of traffic. On the other hand, on PC, they seem to be hyper-vigilant of all the traffic rules. And then randomly towards the end of the game on PS2, I got a couple of times with dangerous driving, so who knows? It's not consistent, at least on PS2. What is interesting is that while you're inside a car, it's the car that gets the police attention, not you. However, if you're on foot committing crimes, like say shooting people or walking around with your gun out, it's you that gets the police attention. Also, if you leave a car in the middle of a chase, all this police wanted level will attach to you instead. But if the police aren't actively watching you, you can change cars while the car is wanted, and this clears your wanted level immediately. Police sightlines are a bit weird. They can definitely see through buildings if you're hiding on the other side of one, but in their cone of attention. But as long as you're out of it, even if in real life you're in their line of sight, you're fine. It can be fairly forgiving a lot of the time, even if I do say something like, "Oh come on," when one catches me right on the edge of their cone or through a building or something. The cops are also much better than drivers in DRIV3R, generally able to initiate chases and tail you doggedly, though once again they lose the plot completely the second they go off-road, which is a welcome break, but also pretty funny. This can cause problems in a mission later where you're supposed to have a cop tail you into different areas, but we'll get to that. Unless they get into a mishap, and accidents do happen, you're going to have a hard time outrunning the cops without tearing off into an alley or off-road, unless you're driving something very, very fast. So after fixing Slink's ride, he installs a CB radio into your car and gets you to prove yourself through a variety of tasks. He's got you to hit speed gates at increasing targets from 70 to 80 to 100, and then he brings you to an old warehouse where he hands you a revolver and guides you on this game's aiming and lock-on systems. These systems are fine. Not great. It's obvious they've played Resident Evil 4, as there's a very useful over-the-shoulder style manual aiming system, which unfortunately on console is just too slow to be useful. There's the lock-on, which does work better than those in the Grand Theft Auto series, but barely. Like both games, it becomes unusable at close range or when enemies walk around you. However, it does offer a handy way to aim at a car ahead while driving, which works better than any other console open-world drivey-shooty crime game peer at the time. Slink also has an additional challenge for you on the Wii version, out at LaGuardia, where he teaches you the basics of handbrake operation, which is a very counterintuitive use of the nunchuck. Basically, you have to tilt it up, mimicking pulling a handbrake. This means that when I first started the game on Wii, I immediately slammed to a halt because I was holding the nunchuck up slightly, and it took me a while to figure out what I was doing wrong and how to get my car to move. The mission explaining the handbrake operation is about half an hour in. We'll get to more about the Wii version in part 6, but let's just state it clearly. How you hold the nunchuck is of paramount importance to playing this game. It registers tilting to the side as a sort of slight steering wheel turn, and any movement up or holding straight as an e-brake pull. Once you figure out the best position to hold the nunchuck, the game's fine, but on the downside, eventually it started making my hand go numb. On the plus side though, using the Wiimote as a pointer for your gunplay is fantastic. It makes the whole game feel like a modern 3D Lucky and Wild, where you are both lucky and wild. You can get a similar feeling, of course, by opting to play on a mouse and keyboard in the PC version. So I do find myself toggling between both control methods playing it on a computer. Next, you got the mission Pay Ray. Ray asks for $1,500 to help pay the bills. This is done through a series of odd jobs that you can take around the map, such as the loan shark gig, where you chase down folks owing a sketchy loan office money, but you don't kill them. There's also races at each of the 3 racetracks, which are split into easy, medium, and hard. Reviews at the time panned the race modes, noting that this shows the driver engine is very much not made for a racing game, but I disagree. These play like the Demolition Derby games Reflections made back in the 1990s, though without the 20-odd amount of other racing cars. While you get instantly disqualified for taking your gun out, there's nothing in the rulebook against smashing the heck out of your opponents, and one raceway even has an X crossing which makes such collisions almost inevitable. Ray has 3 garages, one in the Bronx, which I should emphasize is a different place than Brooklyn, and I have no idea which of the 2 I've been to, but I've been to one of them. The other two are at LaGuardia by the airport and in New Jersey. Fortunately, you can fast travel between Ray's garage locations, which saves some commuting time. On PS2, Wii, and Xbox, you can't fast travel to and from the garage or to any other locations, but only fast travel between garages and later your safe house. On the PC, for whatever reason, you can fast travel to any mission or activity on the map, which is very handy, as getting around the map from location to location can easily take 5 minutes or more if you're trying to be careful and avoid police attention. Slink's next request for the moment is to steal a car from a guy he doesn't like, get the police attention, dump the car when they're not looking back where you found it, and leave the poor sap to be arrested. This serves as a tutorial highlighting the wanted level being attached to the car and not you, again unless the police see you exiting the vehicle.
Oh man, my car! Down on the ground!
On the Wii version, this comes before Pay Ray, but adds a final section to the quest where you deliver drugs you stole from the car. Slink then gives you 3 missions to go through for him, which leads into the framework of parallel lines. You're introduced one by one to different quest givers, and they give you 3 missions to do, and then usually a final chapter ending quest that summarizes your objective. You do have to do all 3, but you're free to take them in any order you choose. Slink's mission Repo Man lets you act as a repo man driving a tow truck around collecting vehicles, repoing them from various men. And I enjoy this one a lot. I've said it before, something about using a tow truck in these games is weirdly fun, even after folks get mad at you for maybe accidentally stealing their car a little. Driving a tow truck around town with the lights on makes me feel like a big boy, and having the car trailing like a pendulum makes for some fun driving too. It helps that the tow truck depot is on the far side of a park in, I want to say, Jersey? So you can cut through there to lose any angry car owners chasing after you. This becomes a minigame available on the map later, so you can feel real big and strong and important and make those lights go anytime you want.
Where you been? I got to move to green now, man. I mean now. It's at the clubs all bagged up and waiting.
Sure, Slink. I'm on it.
On Bread Run, you're acting as a courier for Slink, who is behind on some important payments. All that there is to this mission is stopping at each of Slink's funky rabbits and picking up the cash, though rival gang members will attempt to stop you from this. This may be the single most forgettable mission in the game, especially in as much as I forgot about it.
You make sure that gets where it's gotta be.
The next quest giver, the Mexican, is introduced to you when he drives up with someone obviously in his trunk.
Is him.
We've been chewing on grit, and this here is the righteous pearl.
Nah, I don't like him.
He's portrayed by everyone's favorite 2010s voice actor, Nolan North. This was pre-Nathan Drake.
You devil.
What is it? Come on, hold it up.
No way. Deal was for a coffin. That's it.
Wait a minute. If my show hadn't have funded this expedition, you wouldn't have...
You got your story, lady.
Pre-Best Friend from Singularity.
Copy that, Titan 1. You see that?
Pre-Dark Void.
What the hell?
God, what is it?
Heck, you wouldn't even recognize his voice in this one, as he's doing sort of broad Mexican stereotype accent.
You know what to do. Anything goes, but no guns. You start when I drop.
See you later, sucker!
Oh, shit, man.
Don't do impressions of other races.
Roger that, Angie.
After deciding to take a chance on TK, he informs you exactly who the guy in the trunk is.
So who's in the trunk?
Oh, there's my last driver.
In the mission Last Chance, this previous driver gets one more shot to remain the employee of the Mexican. You get to race him one-on-one. He cheats in many ways, like riding off before the Mexican shouts go, and having his gangster friends block the race routes with their cars. And they shoot at you. But the game does offer some sweet jumps, and the previous driver has no idea how to cut through grassland for shortcuts. I have a distinct memory of being unable to find a motorcycle for quite a while back in 2006 attempting to start this mission, as you need to come to the glowy circle on a bike, and for whatever reason the RNG gods decided not to spawn any around. On the Wii version there's one just right there. A good tip for this game is to store a motorcycle of some kind at your garage in case you need one, although this is the only job that ever requires a motorcycle without giving you access to one. The garage is pretty neat, both letting you do the usual San Andreas style car customizations, but also having an unlimited storage capacity of types of car. You can only have one of a particular model of vehicle, but it does tug on the completionist side of me that wants to collect every single type of vehicle in the game. Though this is pre-achievement, so you can only feel proud of yourself, and maybe play some kind of achievement sound for yourself when you do get all of them. There's no real reason in-game for doing this. I didn't try to grab every single type of utility truck for the game, though I did end up with a few dozen cars because, yeah, collecting cars is fun. You can upgrade them in a few ways, as it's one of the only things you can spend your money on aside from ammo. But really, I wouldn't spend too much time upgrading your street cars in this game, as there are race variants of most vehicles that you can win either from completing certain missions, or winning the race side quests after you've done the Pay Ray mission. The game is bad about making this super clear, but you can win cars for winning every street race on the map, and you can also win cars for, I'm pretty sure, winning on medium or hard at every racetrack. The cars that you win from the racing side missions are much better than any street version you can modify, especially once you've maxed out the car's race tuning and options and added NOS tanks.
Okay, listen up. First one of you pendejos to get back here with Rosalita wins. So, 3, 2, 1, vamos!
I'm gonna win this car, kid, so back off!
Maybe I should have brought something quicker to the party.
Rosalita Racer is an odd mission. The Mexican needs you to pinch hit for a race where his own car, the Rosalita, is the prize. You and the other racers make a rally run towards the car, and the first one to reach it wins. Except then for some reason you have to drive it back while all the other racers suddenly want to wreck you.
You gotta admire that Mexican style, don't ya?
This car is a show queen, no extra power, but the Mexican is happy to get it back. It also appeared in my inventory in some versions of the game. Third round now is when you get your safe house. It's a deluxe studio apartment out in Manhattan on the waterfront with some great 70s wallpaper. As you collect more guns, they'll show up here along with health, and you can use it to miraculously transport between there and any of Ray's garages.
The hour every hour in the Big A. Top story this morning, President Carter is due to give a press conference.
Who the fuck are you?
Bishop.
What do you want?
Relax. Corrigan sent me.
Who?
So this is your new pad, huh? Slink told me all about it.
You know Slink?
You're gonna help me bust Candy out.
What?
I'll be in touch.
Wait, who is Corrigan?
You know what happened to the kid who asked too many questions?
No.
Bishop is voiced by Rodney Salisbury, who has been doing small parts in everything from Taxi to Chips and played Anthony Walker for a stretch on The Bold and the Beautiful, while also doing a ton of game and cartoon voice work. He's still active today. Paddy Wagon is the first mission of what becomes the narrative arc for the game. You wake up staring at Bishop, a man you've never met before, in your swanky new 70s bachelor pad. You're going to help bust Candy out of prison, Candy being the ideas guy behind their criminal empire. By help, we mean pretty much do every step of the process. First up, hijack a prison van. This is also the first real challenging mission of the game. I can't offer any real advice for it. I can only tell you what did eventually work for me. Bring a fire truck. I tried it with modified and reinforced pickup trucks and other utility vehicles, and that didn't really help. The sheer mass of the fire truck, now that sends a prison van flying. Also taking out the 2 escort cop cars early so they don't keep pelting with bullets helps a lot. I only really saw fire trucks spawn around the prison, oddly enough, so that might be the best place in the game to find one. Don't bother trying to fight off the guards once they ditch the van, just run into it and get the heck out of there.
I got no medical.
Let's see how she handles.
Circuit Breaker is a definite change of pace. The Mexican has a bet against you and needs you to make sure a different racer wins. There's a couple of ways of accomplishing this. You'll need a race level car to start with, so definitely spend enough time upgrading your vehicles enough to win a race car through winning a medium race. You'll need to either delay or destroy the other racers. The one the Mexican bet on is basically a class below the others, so unless you do something, there's no way he'll win. Once he's improved a position, he's pretty good about not letting another racer return out to the front, though you might find it easier to just hit the opposing racers enough that their cars catch fire and crash out. And while the Mexican tells you to do whatever it takes to make the other guy win, it turns out this doesn't mean pulling a gun. That, as in all races, disqualifies you immediately. Don't forget to grab one of the Serrano racers from the pit lane if you don't have one, or if you've just trashed the hell out of your car. That will remain with you once you've won the race.
You want to take her for a spin?
Sure, let's see what she can do.
You won't regret this, mister. It's a beautiful car.
Turning the Screw is one of those missions that shows up at least once in every open-world drivey-shooty crime game. You pose as a buyer for the car that this guy is selling. He's a guard at the prison where Candy is being held, so you need to scare the crap out of him in order to get him talking.
Is your kind of car, mister, huh?
At first he cajoles you into driving faster, but once you start really racing, he retracts that, and then asks you to slow down.
Hey, mister, watch the speed signs.
It's only once you start asking for details about his job and shift changes that he realizes what's going on, but the dialogue programming for this mission sort of forgets that he knows you're there to scare him.
Now, I'm gonna ask some questions, and you're gonna answer them. Got it?
You maniac!
Good. How many guards are on kitchen duty on the day shift?
Shit! I don't know, 6, sometimes 8 at changeover time?
And once you slow down and then start driving fast again, he acts like you're test driving the vehicle for purchase.
You mind slowing down a little?
Found this one tricky on Xbox and PS2 and easy on PC and Wii. The higher frame rate makes weaving around the traffic easier on PC, and the reduced traffic on the Wii version removes any difficulty from getting this one done.
Second question. Are they heavily armed?
What do you think? They've shotguns. Slow down! Hey! Who are we racing?
Airmail is pretty much just that one mission from GTA 3 where you're in a boat and the plane is dropping its cargo and you have to pick it up before the cops get you. Except this time you're on land and riding a motorcycle. Things get more complicated when you get to the last box, which is on top of a building surrounded by cops. It's not entirely clear at first what you're supposed to do when you get there, but if you shoot a cop by the fire escape, a barrel blows up and then you can ride that to the top of the building on the second floor, where you have to do some indoor jumps back out to the top and then race across to the next building to get the package. Once you understand what the game's asking you to do, it's pretty fun. Just don't miss your jumps or you'll get bulleted to death. Jailbreak is the big set piece for this, the second act of the game. Using the police van, you make your way into the jail with the help of the previously scared and now bribed prison guard.
I'll tell him you waved the gun in my face and tore out the phone. Get going!
Then you switch to a bulldozer, which does immediately have every guard in the place shooting back at you. And you drive through a wall into the inner courtyard. Head in through the door to Candy's block and get your first real shooting section of the game. It's not great. You have to take things basically one encounter at a time, lose most of your health, backtrack or sneak over to the next medkit, and keep going.
Who are you? My fucking fairy godmother?
Close. Bishop sent me to get you out of here. Want to hitch a ride before it's pumpkin time?
Fucking wise guy.
You rescue Candy, a big man who isn't super thrilled about the rescue, the job that got him in there, or anything really. We all know I'm a fan of big men, but Candy gives me more Wayne Knight vibes.
Gracias, señor.
And I was never super into him. I was just an Abraham bin Ruby guy.
Party time. We'll take it from here.
The commies are storing nukes in the subway service tunnels.
Candy is played by Michael Cornacchia, who has done live action and voice roles since the late 90s, appearing as Frankie in Happy Feet and playing thugs across many Batman Arkham games.
The guys knew each other from way back. The whole setup was like some Addams Family for gangsters. The five of us were living the life. Drugs, drink, girls. And then Corrigan showed, snapped his fingers, and it stopped.
Ian Gregory plays Corrigan, who has appeared in a ton of shows as a character actor, but the hip gaming glitterati would know him best as Papa Khan in Fallout New Vegas.
So the cub enters the wolf's den. What do you want, cub?
You get Candy to the safe house after losing the cops, and then get to hear the big plan with the new leader of the group, Corrigan. Corrigan sees that cocaine is going to be the it drug of the 1980s, and wants to make sure that everyone in New York City is getting it from him. This does mean toppling the Colombians who currently control the cocaine trade in the city. So his idea? capture the Colombian gang boss, Rafael Martinez, and return him for a whole ton of cash and the promise the Colombians will get the hell out of the city.
He is the Colombians. He's in New York, and he's already making it happen. But he's about to get kicked all the way back to where he came from. And know who's gonna do it? We are.
Once again, this involves you doing pretty much all the legwork. Start with gift wrap, which is a pretty fun one. You need to make your way to the roof of LaGuardia parking garage via a series of little jumps and ramps that just happen to be there. In a good use of the bonus stars, they indicate the easiest way to get up to the top of the complex.
Nice and easy through the barriers.
You have to be subtle and go in and out with the stolen Colombian cartel SUV real cool.
What's that rule? Play it cool.
Then drive it across Queens, Jersey, Brooklyn, I still don't know, to get to the garage with a time limit.
Just drive on through, buddy. Job like this, we can do it while you wait.
Get a bomb planted in the vehicle, and get it back to the parking complex, again with a time limit, with no one being the wiser. Really, this just involves driving slowly and not getting the attention of the cops or smashing up too badly, but it's still fun.
Obliged.
Next is kidnap, and you guessed it, this is the big kidnapping job. You drive around to designated points in the city, setting off bombs. First, one to knock down a billboard and block the entrance to a bridge. Maybe a tunnel. Then the one you had planted in the SUV last mission to remove one escort car. Then another bomb to blow up a pedestrian bridge and cut off the second escort car. If I were TK here, I'd be pretty terrified about dropping these bombs. But I'd have to remember Liza Minnelli's sage advice. Finally, blow up a gas truck to divert the Colombians' route, so they end up trapped in the planned kill zone.
You have to blow the gas tanks now. We're running out of time here.
I like that you really don't have to shoot anyone in this mission, you just have to wait till they're done, and then drive the shot-up car with the uninjured Colombian drug lord to Corrigan's warehouse for safekeeping.
You want money? Is that what it is? Just sit back and enjoy the ride.
The final element of this kidnapping? Getting the ransom. And yes, it's up to you to grab it, and this time you know you're walking into a trap. The ransom's strapped to a motorcycle, and you have to be prepared to jump across the rooftops all the way to a waiting pickup truck for a shooting mission. I screwed this one up so bad on either PS2 or Wii that I accidentally drove off the rooftops and missed the turret section in the back of the truck, but honestly, that's okay. It's a fun series of jumps though. Either in the back of the pickup or on your own, you make it back to the warehouse where Corrigan decides to notify you of a change of plans.
Can you take a message?
Anda, vete al carajo.
Shit.
Change of plan, kid.
Sure.
You see, he figures it's a good idea to just kill the Colombian drug lord anyway, and then also you, so that someone could be pinned for the whole business.
What's going on?
Cops are gonna need somebody in the frame. You're it.
Me?
Wise up, kid. You're nothing. You're nobody. Who gives a fuck?
Unfortunately for Corrigan, you lived. Unfortunately for you, you go to jail for 28 years, which means time skip.
Corrigan was a cop on the make. He and the others had figured me to take the heat from Martinez. Soon as I could stand, I went on trial. I got 28 years in Sing Sing. 10,227 days. I didn't waste a single one. When they let me out, I was ready.
It's 2006. Bikini girls dance in the backyard and you get a montage of modern-day New York City, though the stock footage used looks like it's from 1992 at the latest. The first thing you'll notice about 2006 is that everything is blue. It's true, during the post-9/11 Bush years, everything in the US got really blue and contrasty. TK is greeted by Ray outside the prison, and you'll notice a few things. Donkey Kong's hair is somehow even grosser. He's now wearing Guy from Akira sunglasses, and at least now that it's 2006, he doesn't walk in a weird, exaggerated swagger anymore. Now, I did save the time shift as a bit of a surprise for those who haven't played the game, but it was an essential part of the game's trailers and advertising. I think it would have been neat as a surprise, but I can see wanting to show off the two different eras of the city. There's a lot of changes. Cop cars are more modern, though they look sort of European. The Twin Towers are gone, there's more SUVs and compact cars. It has off-brand versions of two popular newly released cars from 2006, the Chrysler 300C and the Mercedes CLS. Both were Mercedes variants. The 300C came from Mercedes' acquisition of Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep, and was based on a modified version of the E-Class platform, while the four-door coupe was a styling hit for Mercedes back in 2006, even if it kind of looks like a big long slug. Who wore it best? Both BMW and Audi have hit back with their own sluggy cruisers, and frankly all of the big Audi sedans these days have a styling that harkens back to this vehicle, as does Mercedes' own EQS. Of course, both are touchstones for the big V8 sedans that driver is known for. Some of the other cars are pretty obvious in their inspirations. There's a blatant TVR knockoff that's tricky to actually find on the map, what could be a Mitsubishi 3000 GT, and perhaps what could be a Bugatti Veyron alike that I've only ever found during the last mission of the game. There's a distinct shift in the narrative style of the game too. The saturated nostalgic 1970s was very inspired by Scorsese's Taxi Driver, as well as Across 110th Street and even The Taking of Pelham 123, classic 70s New York crime cinema. With the switch to 2006, it feels more like the series of middle-aged man revenge movies that came out in the late 90s to early 2000s, like the Stallone Get Carter remake and Payback. There's also a hint of Michael Mann to the languid pacing of the cutscenes and stark blue hues. The tone is a lot darker, and Donkey Kong is now focused entirely on getting revenge on those who set him up. You start pretty much right out of the gate with the Mexican, who has hit hard times, is struggling with addiction, and works at a peep show arcade.
That's him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he works Midtown. Some kind of arcade. I'm not gonna help.
I wasn't counting on it.
That ain't fair. You know I couldn't help. They would have killed me.
Hey, Ray, it's cool. You know, it's history. Come on, I'll buy you one of those foamy coffee things you like.
Cappuccino?
Yeah, one of them.
9s or quarters.
There ain't no money here.
I didn't come from money.
Shit, man. I don't know you.
You just don't remember me.
Fuck.
You have to chase this train across the city, ending up at Coney Island. This chase on every version took a few tries, as you don't really have much of a choice of the vehicles around the Peep Show arcade, other than what shows up. This is one chase where speed definitely matters, as does off-road ability, as the shortest point to follow the train quickly is under or around the tracks, where for some reason residents set up a bunch of cool jumps just for funsies. Once you get to the amusement park, you'll find that I guess he still has a gang of buddies who will get murdered for him. That's always nice to see. Like, sure, you might be down and out, but you still have your friends. Friends who will rush at a gunman one or two at a time and then help you in your boss fight as you absorb bullets like a sponge. Just inspiring. This is, of course, the first real boss fight of the game. You then drop off the Mexican's body for Corrigan as a fun joke. Ray sets you up in a meeting with Candy's right-hand woman, Maria, making it 2 driver games in a row with a strong Latino woman, neither of whom ever become love interests. On your way to meet Maria, you're attacked and get a fun mission where you just obliterate a hired hitman.
That's what I'm talking about! You finished? Want to go meet this girl or not? Let's go.
Maria's at the slow motion shooting range, where you discover that she's a no-nonsense woman who gets what she wants. You can tell that absolutely no nonsense was involved in her life. Her parents tried to get her to watch Sesame Street as a child, and she said, "No, this is nonsense. I do not want nonsense. Please switch over to the McNeil-Lehrer report." Maria is played by Claudia Catalina, whose only acting credit is this game. Nonsense aside, she has a series of jobs for you. Maria's missions start out with Guardian Angel, a switcheroo mission that starts about getting an expensive motorcycle but actually turns out to be an ambush, where the storage unit you're in is surrounded and you have to get out of there. Fortunately, there's a park nearby and these guys once again cannot drive on grass. One thing that bugged me throughout recording 4 hours of playthroughs for this game was how the sound of passing cars at high speed sounds like water glugging.
Weren't amateurs. What the hell is going on?
Next she has Gauntlet, one of the more difficult missions, but not really due to the amount of combat, because the elf needs food badly. You are escorting her and her driver through the city, and they're constantly stopped by gang car blockades that you have to take care of before they destroy her car. This mission showcases the absolutely bonkers allied AI, as she will run you off the road very easily and tends to like to park next to someone shooting at her car. Although I guess she's not driving. So her driver Manny does. The difficulty with this mission comes with keeping her alive, as every roadblock has medkit around, so keeping yourself alive is relatively easy. But you have to babysit her while also not getting your car destroyed by her Mercedes CLS. I tended to keep this simple by swapping out vehicles with one of the undamaged gang cars at each roadblock. I found the point where Manny dies, and you have to run over to her vehicle to be the most difficult portion of the mission, as she's just sitting around and soaking up damage from all sides. If her vehicle doesn't blow up, you open the driver's door, roll poor Manny out onto the road, and take control. Okay, and aw, Manny is a beefy bearded boy. I'm sorry, Manny. R.I.P. Around now you get a set of Slink missions. This time they're not jobs he's assigning you, but instead jobs about destroying his life. Let's look at Rush Hour, the first of Let's Wreck Slink's Shit missions. This might be one of my favorite missions in the game, as it really does feel like classic driver mission design. A package full of Slink's drugs is cleared custom, and Slink's rented 4 identical cars to throw off anyone looking to bust his deal. You've got to track down each car one by one, take care of the driver, and then check the vehicle to see if it's the one you're looking for. It's always going to be the 4th one you try. The mission feels like classic driver due to the lack of police chasing you, the general lack of gun battling until you get close to possible drug cars, and manic pace you have to take to get to every possible vehicle within the time limit. They spread out all over the city, though by the end they all converge in just 2 loops around Manhattan, meaning that you don't have to make a 4-mile trip between the second to last and last car. Their locations are revealed to you on the map by a bribed rental car official who has planted trackers on all the cars, but he has to stop tracking them as soon as his boss comes back, giving you a 12-minute time limit.
Wrong car. You're gonna have to chase one of the others. Go!
At that point, all the possible cars disappear off the map, though if you're in mid-chase of the last one, you can still continue to chase it as long as you don't let them fire out of your sight. When you do narrow it down to the last car, this car becomes far more resistant to damage and police start doing patrols around you, meaning you either have to try and stealth around the cops while keeping your eye on the last car, or YOLO it and hope they don't wreck you before you wreck him. It's got the kind of pace and energy I love from the original games.
You got it, about time. Tell Ray he owes me big time.
Thanks. You've been a big help.
Ram Raider, another Destroy Slink's Shit mission, has Ray present you with a Mad Max-style armored TVR, which you can use to ransack 3 of Slink's adult stores. This is another callback to a mission style you first saw in the original Driver, smashing through various restaurants. But the extra element in this one is that the stores are full of armed guards. You have to destroy almost every window and rack inside before you get locked in by the closing shutters. You can still continue this mission if you do get stuck inside, but your lovely TVR vehicle will be lost forever. The trickiest part of this mission is actually after the end of it. You have the chance to drive this armored car back to the garage to save it, but only if you can elude the gang members enough to get it there. I only managed this on Wii. On the PS2 it was wrecked on the way home, due to it being extremely susceptible to flipping. The vehicle does come in useful for later missions. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get the armored TVR to survive the job on PC. Really, that was a cavalcade of errors. I tried sneaking off after the last adult bookstore through the park a few times, only to again experience the flipping issue. Also frequently, TK would just get murderized on his way home with the slow health drain from the shooting. I guess Ray may not have done the best job armoring this. I figured the best plan was to book it to Ray's garage as soon as possible, since I seemed unable to lose the pursuing foe Escalades. But even this decision was fraught, especially in this final destination instance of trying to shoot the driver and exploding the truck, which ended in a TK-shaped smear. I loudly declared, "What?" after that one. But I did eventually succeed, after losing one of the two gang Escalades in the park and stopping the TVR by the garage so I could grab the health kit and shoot the two remaining drivers. The first one went down very easily, but I guess my shots were too wild on the second, and his Escalade blew up. Yes, I completed the mission. But at what price? At what price? And it auto-saved. I probably should have switched to mouse aim the second I got out of the car. Now, wrecking Slink's business has caused him enough grief. TK pays him a visit at the Fuzzy Badger or whatever. Neon Stoat? Paisley Sable. Anyway, in a rather Tarantino-y scene, Slink assumes you're his stoner bodyguard Roost, and when he realizes you're not, he tries to talk his way out.
How about that ass, Roost?
Change of plan.
Motherfucker! It was you been messing with my shit.
You're not looking good, Slink.
Hey, great to see you, man. Shit, you been working out? You still driving? Been a while, huh? You get them cookies I sent?
Been 28 years, and no, I don't recall any cookies.
What the fuck? Who the fuck is this?
You should go.
Roost, he's here for the shit. Blow his motherfucking head off. Fucking safety catch, man, you dumb fuck. This crazy motherfucker's back.
So now you've got to chase Slink in one of his gang Escalades. This was a painful experience on PS2 and a very quick one on Wii. Once again, the bosses are bullet sponges, even on Wii. With the increased difficulty on PS2, I found myself getting shot or blown up before knocking out Slink's truck, especially if I got out of the car. Don't get out of the car is my first piece of advice. It also gives you a narrow leash before it declares that Slink escapes. What I found worked best was loading up on guns from your safe house.
I'm about to get Daytona on your monkey ass.
Oh, and speaking of the safe house, no one has decided to take this place from you, so it's been abandoned and is derelict, with some video game graffiti, most notably Tanner Lives. It's still where any new weapons in this time period show up. You may also want to buy additional ammo from one of the garages. Shellshock is one of the selection of missions to harm Bishop's businesses, and it starts as a simple hijacking of an SUV that's filled with explosives. Fortunately for you, all the exits out of this warehouse are blocked by tractor trailers and guys with missile launchers, and the only way out is radical.
Oh no! Looks like we're gonna have to jump!
Then it's just a matter of losing the tail or killing them, whatever seems fastest to you. Pro tip, driving in reverse while facing the baddies allows you an easy way to target and deblastify their cars. You can even shoot them through their windshields. Gatecrasher is a good idea for a mission that's marred by very poor AI pathing. Bishop has been doing a smuggle, and there are 2 locations you need to get shut down. Instead of taking them out yourself, which probably won't be possible in the very tight time limit, you have to build up the felony meter and then lead the cops by the nose to each crime location. Unfortunately, most of my failures for this one come down to the cops being unable to follow me up a ramp or around the block of buildings through back alleys. On my first try with the ramp one cop just got stuck and all the rest were blocked off behind him. For the other, I kinda had to coax a cop around a corner with kind words and a positive tone of voice. Come on, buddy, you can do it. Come on, let's go. Good cop, have a tweet. Then you get Bishop's mission.
Yeah?
I put a contract out on you.
Bishop.
Know how much you've cost me?
Not enough.
You know, we can keep doing this forever. But I guess you don't want that either.
As long as it takes.
Let's finish it. Face to face. My place. My guys will stay out of it. You have my word.
Think I'll just kill you anyway.
You can think it all you like. This is a chance to prove to yourself you can take me. One chance. Won't you always wonder?
Baby, you're missing your own party.
Give me a minute, precious.
There's a room needs working, baby.
One chance.
When?
Just get here. I'll be ready.
He calls you from his luxury estate and then requests that you head on over and can finally see who will kill who. Now, he does promise a fair fight.
Like my new toy, let's end this.
But what you actually get is you versus his armored car, featuring a rocket turret. And that rocket turret can pretty easily one-shot whatever you're driving, and you, if it gets a clear direct hit, so try to escape the splash zone. Approaching the lil buddy from behind gives you a fairly clear shot, but his turret can spin around, so you might prefer waiting around corners for a good shot. Motorcycles can help, though you will absolutely get killed if a rocket hits anywhere near you. Now back to Maria, for her final mission, riding shotgun. Maria has to deliver an exotic sport bike to a client and it's on the back of a truck. It's another back of the truck turret style mission where you're defending the truck from attacking rival gang members. No matter how well you do, the truck will eventually break down and you do have to drive the rest of the way yourself. Fortunately, the bike is very fast and getting there is easy. Maria says she'll introduce us to Candy, but does ask us not to embarrass her. Of course we never would. We'll be the ultimate gentleman with Mr. Candy. But he's not a gentleman with us. For the Candy mission, he understands what's about to happen and has his guards ready to take you back to the 1970s.
This is all very untidy. I knew we should have got rid of you properly. I told them. You know what I said? This will come back to haunt us.
You were right.
Now, don't try and suck up to me. I don't need it, and I don't like it neither. Tell me about the girl. Why's she helping you, huh? You screwing her?
Maria's not involved.
Bullshit. She's working with you. You know what? I'm gonna kill the bitch. Fucking voicemail. Maria, my dear, be an angel and meet me in the office, huh? 1 hour. Don't be late now. Remember the 70s, the music, the parties? Didn't we have fun? It's time to go back, kid. For good.
By trying to give you a heroin overdose. But you struggle your way out, and then chase after Candy as the drugs slowly kick in and start filling the screen with blur effects. This is pretty clever, though I'm sure a mission in either Vice City or San Andreas had a similar gag. But I haven't played through either in 20 years, and it's hard to say. Candy won't get out of the car, so in this case just blowing up his vehicle is enough. And that's Candy out of the picture. The last chapter of the game unfolds in probably its best pre-rendered cutscene, as a camera implies TK is being watched from the outside as he enters his apartment. He walks in and, oh no, Corrigan is there, and Ray has betrayed him.
Where's Ray?
Right here.
All 4 dead. I gotta thank you for clearing up some loose ends. I thought that fucking kidnap was never gonna go away.
I was the only one who thought it was a fucking kidnap. You knew all along you were gonna kill him.
Did Ray tell you I had an eye on running for mayor? Because I should really thank both of you. You couldn't have done it without his help. Wake up. He gambles. He was broke. Just like 78 all over again. Ray's always broke. He'll sell anyone for a few $1,000. That right, Ray?
Hey, you know me. I'm no fucking angel.
Now's the time to find out. Fact of the matter is, I really should have done this right the first time.
Well, now I'm really curious.
My father was Rafael Martinez. I've waited all my life to find who killed him. Now I know who's on my list.
Am I on that too? That why you're here?
Right now, you're useful to me.
Maybe. But how are you gonna be useful to me?
I can get as close to Corrigan. I want him dead as much as you do. More.
Maria, our abbey is not to be used as an escape. What is it you can't face?
So you two are going to work together, figuring out how to solve a problem like Corrigan. But of course, there's 2 more missions first. One involves taking out all of Corrigan's private security and homewrecker. To get through his gate, you'll need a limo, which Maria has arranged to wait for you. But oh no! It's being driven to the police station! You have to kill the driver and his police entourage, and drive the smoldering wreck back to Corrigan's immense estate. He's the chief of police now, you see, or commissioner. Maybe both. After you get inside, it's just a matter of taking out each guard around his house, and there are dozens. If this is private security, my question is, are they paid for by public funds? This seems like a waste of public money. If it's private funds, I believe it's a failure of the system that is obvious corruption hasn't been flagged. This area really reminds me of PS1 graphics, though the character models are better, and the draw distance is better. For one of the final set pieces of the game, it truly looks awful. Like an out-of-the-way area in Grand Theft Auto game you're not even supposed to notice. This mission was reasonably difficult on PS2, where you have to move foot by foot, slowly taking out every group of enemies. Of course, on Wii it felt like Time Crisis, though not actually looking as good as a Time Crisis, even the PS1 ones. Now you've dealt with his home, you need to take out his work too. This means going into the bear's cage. In the mission, the bear cage. I went to the bear cage once. It had a huge darkroom between both bar and dance areas. Anyway, so you have to do a bit of a police station invasion, the Getaway style. Who did it better? I'd say the Getaway looks and plays better through this, but no matter the version, Driver is much easier and shorter. So TK places an explosive in the chief's office, and then gets the heck out of there. I do like its escape sequence though. You may have noticed on the way that there's a TVR waiting by the door, and on the way out you can grab it. To get out of the parking garage, if you really gun the throttle, you can make it through the closing security doors, which makes this escape sequence a whole lot easier. Now the last mission of the game, Corrigan, and it's a long one. It starts off with heading over to the safe house where Corrigan is hiding. You get through there and Corrigan escapes the rooftop helicopter, locking you out so you can't just shoot it down. You have to backtrack down to the exit and shoot your way through the police and find a car to nab. This mission spawns the either Audi R7 or Bugatti Veyron-like car, so if you see one of those, definitely grab it. Then it's a matter of chasing the helicopter, which you can't actually damage at this point, and you can't lose on the map either. You have to make it to the tunnel before the time limit, that's all. And this begins one sequence that even back in 2006 made me roll my eyes and say, come on. Corrigan orders the police to demolish the tunnel as soon as you go into it, which seems like a PR disaster, and an example of insane police overreach. I mean, it's not without some precedent, such as the Philadelphia police dropping an improvised bomb on the Move housing, killing 11 people including 5 kids in 1985. Or even the Branch Davidian Waco massacre in 1993 where 79 died, including 21 kids. Both make for some interesting reading. At any rate, video games are fun and not about politics. Video games are only political if you stop and think about what they're saying and showing for a second. So never do that. So after your attack on the New York City police, and their escalation to destruction of billions of dollars worth of infrastructure and what seems like about a dozen civilian lives in this zany fun driving game, you now get to drive through the crumbling tunnel with big chunks of rock that will destroy your car if you get too hit by them. There's a very strict time limit. Fortunately, there's a checkpoint before and after this run, and it's basically a Dragon's Lair style challenge, where you need to learn the correct paths to choose through the tunnel, and at the end do some weaving around obstacles and even a jump.
Neat, cool, rad.
You can continue in whatever you were driving through the tunnel, but there's a faux Mitsubishi 3000 GT and faux Veyron just outside, ripe for the plucking, so I'd recommend either of those for the last dash.
Shoot that son of a bitch down and I'll come find you.
There's no getting out of this chase that easily, and I actually found it a touch more challenging on Wii. Back in 2006, I wasn't entirely sure how to finish this mission, because the game certainly isn't going to tell you. There isn't a health meter for the copter, but it does suggest you destroy it. However, it is a bullet sponge, and the only signs you're doing enough damage come from Corrigan yelling "what the fuck" at one point. Also smoke. So this is both a scripted and open mission. You just have to have done a certain amount of damage to the helicopter before it gets to the end of its pre-scripted path, and it will crash in a cutscene. I thought for sure it would only crash once you got to the end of the road in the industrial area. However, on PC I was able to shoot him down about halfway through the chase. For whatever reason, I nailed this on the first try. Both my Wii and PS2 runs took perhaps a dozen failures or more, and then finally get this ending.
You're gonna have to kill her. She wants us both dead. Open your eyes. We can do a deal here.
Back off, Maria.
Don't listen to him.
Back off! He's mine!
Don't do it.
Shoot her!
If you want him to suffer, give him to me.
You know what those sick fucks will do to me? Shoot me! Isn't that what you want? You useless piece of shit!
Thanks for the serum, boys. Now I won't be kidnapped.
I don't hate it. Maria gets what she wants and TK gets to walk away. Sure, he'll be the most wanted man in the United States, but hey, maybe he can get out of there. He's a great driver. And that's the end of Driver Parallel Lines. So now to ask ourselves, what did the game do right? In 2006, we felt like we were drowning in open-world drivey-shooty crime games. And Parallel Lines, in the sunset of its console generation, offered one more kick in the can that a lot of folks just weren't interested in trying. This time, it wasn't a string of linear missions, but had a true open world, a giant recreation of New York City. While it doesn't go block by block like True Crime New York City, this offers the chance to streamline things and play with the map a little to make it a bit more interesting and varied. Whenever a lot of the same kind of game come out, it's natural to complain with, "Oh, not another one." Or maybe with an English accent, like, "Ew, not another one." I mean, you really want to sound like a Lord Fauntleroy fancy boy. But 20 years later, when maybe one comes out every other year or two, you have the luxury of looking back at old examples of the genre and enjoying them. This is why so many games that were ignored or not given a chance at the time are looked back as hidden gems. I genuinely think with the glut of retro-inspired Metroidvania games we're getting these days, for instance, it's easy to have your eyes glaze over when another is announced. But I guarantee you that in 20 years, we'll be talking about the golden age of the indie Metroidvania and bemoaning how no one at the time knew what classics we were ignoring. That's just how life works. I do not think that Parallel Lines is a lost classic, but it's a game with good moments that does plenty right that the previous game did wrong. Having more traditional open-world gameplay meant that you could take what the game does right, the physics, the chases, the challenges, and enjoy them in the side activities the game offers. Unlike DRIV3R, which had some inspiration from both the success and design of Grand Theft Auto 3, but was still thoroughly its own thing, Driver Parallel Lines was clearly an example of taking the driver gameplay and applying it squarely in a Grand Theft Auto-style framework. Missions are started by visiting glowing points on the map. You have a variety of quest givers and choices between which mission you'd like to do first, though in the end you're going to have to complete all of them. For someone who isn't a fan of pre-rendered cutscenes, at least the ones in this game for the most part, especially at the end of 1978 and all of 2006, are well written and directed. There's some style, good action, and while couched in genre fiction, the writing works.
TV's the black remote.
Of late, but failed to set the track on fire since her last major win last year at Stuck.
The other one, that's the DVD player.
What happened? These things breed?
While I do miss the original funk soundtrack of the first Driver, this is a mainstream, wide-market video game that offers a track from 1970s queer icon Labby Siffre.
I got the blues, but I don't mind.
Opening with Suffragette City and One Way or Another, except on Wii or PC, is a great move too, getting you into the pop feel of the 1970s this game is going for. There's lots of deep cuts in the 1970s soundtrack, like the song Bump Me, which I spent several listen-throughs trying to figure out what he's saying during the song. Bump me? Tum beat? What? It's a good crash course on 1970s funk with some glam rock and a little early punk mixed in there. I can't play any of these chart-topping American hits for more than a few seconds for fear of being demonetized. So please, enjoy this nearly equivalent Canadian hit instead.
Jiggle around, boy, anything goes. When that old music gets moving on down, I love to move with it all over town. Tap, tap, tap on my toes. Can't keep still, heaven knows.
First with my left, then with my right. Tap on my toes from morning till night.
The 2006 soundtrack doesn't grab me in the same way, even with songs from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and LCD Sound System. My favorite Mutiny by The Coup is pretty fantastic, and Milo's Muscle Cars is some great synthwave. But whoever arranged both of these soundtracks had good taste, and there's a lot of interesting music. You can't talk about a driver game without looking at how good these cars break, and they break great. As you crash your way through the city, your trunk will break loose, your hood will fly off, bumpers will sag and grind against the road. The game isn't shy about showing it off either. The opening shot's starting with a cop car ramming into a cab in slow motion glory. You can see the rain of parts and layers of destruction to the vehicle. These cars get fucked up. Another early moment, testing your pistol with Slink, shows the damage model registering individual bullet damage on a granular level. Of course, both the deformation and bullet damage model were in Driver 3, but it was impressive in 2004, and it was still impressive in 2006. Speaking of chases and crashing, this game also brings back fully dynamic pursuits. One of the things I liked least about DRIV3R were the pre-scripted chases, where nothing you did would change the odds of the car you were after reaching its destination. I don't believe, even with the helicopter race at the end, that there's a single mission you can't end early with a well-placed fire truck ramming into the target. And that's wonderful. I'm not going to sit here, look you in the eyes, which I am doing with the latest in reverse YouTube technology, and tell you that the on-foot sections are good in this game. They're not. But at least the camera, aiming, and movement feels better. And the lock-on is almost always good. Okay, it's mostly good. Oh, it's sometimes good. I forget how to get into manual aiming most of the time, which is probably more on me than the game, but it's not intuitive. But swapping between targets is fast and easy, with other targets on screen showing you which way to tap the right stick in order to switch. It's no challenger to 2008's Grand Theft Auto 4, or the rollicking fast combat of Saints Row, but it's better than either Driver or Grand Theft Auto had been to this point. I actually enjoy the racing minigames quite a lot, but this is not something that has a critical consensus. Consider this passage from Douglas C. Perry's review on IGN. It's still great fun to drive through the streets in a Driver game. I noticed something else, which I never really put into perspective before. Driver is a terrible racing game. Since all the mini-games are part of the overall story, you get a better, more direct sense of how they compare while on the streets and in traffic versus on a race with competitors. You'll no doubt have a frustrating time out racing hard-level cars in the LaGuardia racetracks." End quote. Okay, first of all, I've never understood the problem people have with IGN or Kotaku or Destructoid or whatever place's reviews, because they're other people's perspectives. You can't say a subjective opinion is wrong. It's just something you don't personally agree with. That being said, two things. One, they're not hard. And two, they are fun. If you're finding the races difficult, but you want to keep doing them to get the unlockable cars, I strongly recommend that you do what I mentioned before and just do the easy ones until you can upgrade a fast car to maximum, and then use that car to win a race level car in a medium race on any of the tracks. The Bonsai, a sort of Datsun 240Z-alike Japanese sports car, is a good choice for one to tune as it's fast and one of the better handling cars. Once you realize that these driving minigames are basically a limited but good Destruction Derby sequel, you'll have more fun, especially the one that has the crisscrossing racetrack. Who doesn't like that kind of crashing nonsense?
Jump in the chicken! What chicken?
Can you meet the challenge of Turbo Tracks?
I mean, if this was an entire game that I was expected to pay money for, I wouldn't be interested. This is done much better now with games like Wreckfest, but as a proto-Wreckfest, sure, this is fun. The Jersey track is more of a dirt race, which is cool. Grip-oriented cars like the WRX-style compact sedan in 2006 do well. The LaGuardia track is a twisty, straight-up racetrack with some straights that reward a lot of speed. The Hunts Point racetrack is the one with the crash-em-up intersections.
TurboTrax funciona sin pilas y tiene freno a distancia. TurboTrax, wow, qué espectáculo!
And is another dirt track. It's probably the easiest track to win on in medium if you want to get a racer car, as oftentimes the opponent AI will wreck themselves through the course of the 5 laps. But what does Driver Parallel Lines do wrong? When I was thinking about what exactly I didn't like with Driver Parallel Lines, the first thing that came to my head was that the collectibles are pointless. The city is littered with stars that you usually can get through a bit of exploration and figuring out the speed and jumps necessary to get them, and that's cool, but there's no incentive for doing it. From the start with GTA 3, collectibles like the super jumps and hidden packages would give you increasing rewards from the first one onward, and hitting certain numbers of them could give you extra weapons at your home base or other perks like armor. These stars, as far as I'm aware, give you nothing. In Driver 76, they unlock extra paint jobs and other mod items for your car, and other collectibles, which is a step up for sure. While, as I noted, there's some straight-up classics on the playlist the game shuffles through, I feel like leaning on it doesn't do the game any favors. Many of these are going to be songs you're familiar with, like Papa Was a Rolling Stone, Lowrider, or One Way or Another. There's nothing wrong with licensing famous songs. GTA games do this all the time. But I think you have to be careful, especially using these for dramatic moments, as these are songs many players will have a history with already, and they can be distracting. The lack of a custom score makes these moments less interesting. The This game's audio playlist on shuffle style of a soundtrack lacks the immersion of the radio stations in GTA, gives less semblance of choice as to what you're hearing and when, and ends up repeating monotonously. I swear, if I hear that Peaches song again,
Walking on the beaches, looking at the beaches. Well, I got the notion, girl, that
Driver 1's music could get a little repetitive. But it was a fun pastiche of 70s funk that added to the atmosphere of these chases. I was going to use a lot of these Driver 1 tracks as background music for the video, but it turns out they're licensed library music that gets me demonetized. So Vigilante 8, it is. The 2006 soundtrack is an odd mix of B-sides from LCD Sound System, Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and TV on the Radio. Other than the few that I noted on the Good Things chapter, the 2006 soundtrack is weaker and both feel less interesting than those in GTA due to the lackluster presentation. Sadly, a bunch of the soundtrack was excised from the later PC and Wii releases, the most notable cut being Blondie's One Way or Another, which was used during the opening car chase. Another major flaw with this game is it's just not that great on foot. Still, is it better than DRIV3R? Yeah. And as I know in the last chapter, the lock-on aiming works better, but it still gets confused the second folks step close to you, and walking around just doesn't feel good or fun, and that's a problem. I bag on the on-foot portions of the GTA games all the time, but they have things to do and are, combat aside, functional. Other than a couple of stars you have to get on foot, there's absolutely nothing fun or interesting to do on foot in this game. There's no tagging, no hidden packages, no gym, no bicycles. And sure, you don't need all that extra stuff the GTA games throw at you, but it does make me wonder, why have these on-foot portions at all? Before the release of this game, the staff at Reflections noted that only 10 to 15% of the game are on foot, and that's true, but these sections feel perfunctory at best, terrible at worst. They are, at the very least, more functional and less broken than DRIV3R, but have nothing on the missions like sneaking through the old man's house to steal army supplies in San Andreas.
Get off my ridge, you Viet Cong bastards!
Or stealing Mad Dog's rhyme book.
This sucks! I mean, how can Refractions mess up so bad? Tanner, you suck ass!
Enemy behavior boils down to them rushing at you shooting. You take tons of damage, so you're rushing from one med kit to the next. It does again make me wish they'd taken notes from Max Payne, a game that figured out great 3D walk-and-shoot cinematic action combat 5 years earlier. Rockstar eventually learned this with the revised Rage engine in combat in GTA 4 and 5, and they ended up liking Max Payne so much they bought the rights to it. Also, can we talk about the car selection? I feel like having a good swath of cars is part of the special sauce that makes an open-world drivey-shooty crime game good. While the game does have some great cars, it also has a bunch of boring duds that crowd the streets and parking lots too. I'm not complaining about the slow, boring hatchbacks. This kind of game needs a slow, boring hatchback that you have to make do with, because it adds a layer of tension and challenge to the game when you need to use one. I think it's that the average everyday cars aren't very interesting or recognizable. Splitting the amount of cars made between 1978 and 2006 was going to mean less focus on vehicles. But then again, in DRIV3R, it was split via 3 different cities, each with their own selection of cars, combined with some common throughout all areas. Then again, DRIV3R did take much longer to make. There's usually some fun ones in the 1970s to hop into. I quite like the Buick Riviera, the sort of Continental Coupe thing that Corgan drives, the early Datsun Z car. But why does it feel like such a downgrade from the car selections of Driver 1 and 2, Stuntman, and DRIV3R? They're still fast muscle cars, but they don't have that classic muscle feel and look that you got from the earlier games. From replaying a chunk of Driver 1 and loving it again, I did have to ask myself the question, what is it about Parallel Lines that doesn't grab me the way the original does, even now? Of course, one obvious answer is nostalgia. Sure, I was a grown-up when I played Driver for the first time, but this really was the first game I played in the new genre of open-world, drivey, not shooty, crime games, so that's going to hit some pleasure receptors that a later game in this style won't. And of course, I do have my own nostalgia for the PlayStation 1 itself. I mean, this was the first system I bought with my own money earned from working, and I love the dithered, crunchy look of old PS1 games. But it's more than that. Driver 1's missions are simple and tend to be in one of a few modes. Destroy this car, get to this place in the time limit, get to these 4 places in the time limit, escape the cops. There's only so much you can do when you can't get out of a car. And Parallel Lines has plenty of these missions with very similar premises. A couple really do feel like classic driver missions, like the one where you have to search one of 4 cars for drugs as they drive across the city. I think that one, as tricky as it can get, might be one of the best examples of classic mission design in this game. The one thing that mission doesn't have, for the most of it, cops. They're turned off basically right up until the last guy. It's interesting that this could be part of why the mission works so well. The police chases in Parallel Lines aren't very fun. I think the problem is, for once, that the cop AI is just a little too good and mostly just doggedly follows you. Never really trying to pit maneuver you or anything, just riding your bumper. Mainly the damage comes from them shooting at you, which does slowly whittle down both your health and that of your car, but in a dull, slow way. The cops in Driver 1 and 2 can't shoot you, and tend to make very aggressive moves towards your car if they're near you, almost always trying to steer you into buildings. However, on the counter side of the cop AI being good, which is a problem when they randomly start chasing you for weaving around traffic or running a red. This creates basically an impassable scenario, when you need to get through an intersection that a cop is stuck in, and to get around him you may have to violate a traffic law. Since you can't be in an active chase when you start a mission or side activity, you definitely don't want to trigger the cop alert, but you also don't particularly want to sit there for 10 minutes waiting for the cop to move either. I thought the biggest problem with DRIV3R was its pre-scripted chases where the car is invulnerable until a defined point where it either gets where it's going, crashes, or now can take damage. I mean, it still is. Either that or the bugs, but honestly, I found the bugs pretty funny. But Parallel Lines doesn't have the linearity of DRIV3R, and it still isn't as satisfying. So it's more than that for sure. Though I was happy to see that the chases can all be ended at any time in Parallel Lines. So here's where I think Parallel Lines doesn't live up to the gameplay of Driver 1 and 2. 1. Police chases are less exciting. 2. The lack of a custom score makes chases less interesting. 3. The cities are less colorful. 4. The on-foot portions drag the game down. 5. The replays are gone. I love the replays. Forgot to mention that last point, but I love watching the replays in all the previous games. I do believe that film director does make a turn in Driver San Francisco at least. It's silly, but it's something that I love. What about the different versions of this game? Which one is the best? Let's have a look. This is one of those situations where each version has their own appealing qualities, but there is a definitive winner. The PlayStation 2 has been the lead version since Stuntman, so Reflections has got a handle on getting the most out of that machine. That being said, though, this version and all the console versions look significantly worse than both DRIV3R and Stuntman. Still, as you can see, even with the PC version, the PS2 version does appear to have the most visual effects. From shading to reflections on the cars, and everything appears much sharper than the other console versions. You do get the downside of aliasing, but hey, I'll take that in return for improved visuals. On Xbox, things feel in line with how they were on DRIV3R. Image quality in some ways is better than the PS2, it's running at 480p for example, and there's a frame rate cap at 30 frames per second, which it maintains much more steadily than the other two console versions, both of which are unlocked and can swing pretty wildly. Plus, I'm just happier on an Xbox S controller than a DualShock 2 controller, but I get the sense that might be more of a personal preference thing. The big downside with the Xbox version is the frequent frame tearing, something I don't really notice on any other version or DRIV3R. Look at the two side by side, the extra graphical effects on PS2 immediately stand out. The Xbox version has sharper textures, but as textures move out in the distance you can see they get blurrier faster. Perhaps due to a form of anti-aliasing? I'm not sure. While I do like the interlaced 480i output of the PS2 for reducing latency, or the lag between pushing a button and seeing things happen, the more consistent frame rate on Xbox does help the game feel smoother overall. While the PS2 and Xbox have similar dead zone for tuning their analog sticks, the triggers in the Xbox controller are precisely tuned in a way that makes slow driving and threading the brake and throttle the easiest of all versions. It was honestly kind of a bummer playing on the Xbox Series controller and PC and finding that both the range travel on the Series controller is more limited, and that it only uses a fraction of the motion available even then. We do need to talk about the Wii version. It's an odd one. It runs better than the PS2 or Xbox versions, has reduced draw distance, far less traffic and pedestrians, and an early, how do we fit this onto Wii control scheme? Honestly, it fares better than many Wii ports. I'd much rather play this than, say, the Wii port of Okami, the one with the IGN watermark on Amaterasu's mouth. For that game, Amaterasu's area of effect swirl attack was mapped to a shake of the nunchuck, which I found irritating to pull off and inconsistently registering. And yet there's one big positive with the Wii version. It's really fun to play. More fun to play than the other versions even. I genuinely like using the Wiimote to aim, and it makes the gun battles feel like a light gun game. I love a light gun game. The IR sensor aiming with the Wiimote is satisfying and immediate, and the nunchuck's thumbstick is one of the best analog sticks in the business. It's tight and sensitive and allows for a full range of movement to control turns. The only real downside, as I mentioned in the game overview, is the use of the nunchuck's motion and position sensor to engage the handbrake and weirdly make turns. Holding the controller in what feels like a neutral position gives me a bit of a pull to the left, as if the car is in need of an alignment. And yeah, I sat there being shot at the police in the opening moments of the game for a minute or two until I googled how the controls work and figured out I was holding the handbrake by resting the nunchuck in an up position. I've talked in this review and in the DRIV3R review about how miserable the on-foot sections of these games are, but the Wii makes them pretty snappy and fun. The shootout through Coney Island went from a cacophony of deaths and restarts to a done-in-one-go pass, in a kinda janky Virtua Cop sort of way. It was more like Die Hard Trilogy's airport shootout light gun game. The downside of the point at the screen aiming is that the camera control is enabled by moving the cursor to the bounding box at the edge of the screen, and can cause the camera to look down at your feet or randomly spin when you rest the Wiimote not pointing at the screen. You don't have to be constantly holding the Wiimote up, but you do have to move your hand down in a specific way to not have the camera start freaking out. The game also uses every button on the Wiimote, which isn't always comfortable, going from D-pad at the top to the 1 and 2 buttons near the bottom. These are downsides of mapping a controller-based console game to the Wiimote nunchuck, but to me anyway, the pluses outweigh the minuses. Also, the Wii version is far easier, and far less frustrating. Now, I've mentioned before that the difficulty of the missions in the driver games is addicting, but that can also be a roadblock towards anyone actually completing the game. Having less traffic means less difficulty navigating roads and car chases, or getting to locations on time. Some missions, like Rush Hour, still had me replaying a few times to get through, while others like the prison truck heist took no time at all. The Wii also has an overhauled and simplified UI, which moves the wanted meters into GTA-style stars for you and your vehicle. One huge benefit from playing the Wii version is that you get cash for finishing missions, something that doesn't happen on any other platform. In every other version, you strictly have to do side hustles in order to raise cash to improve your cars or buy ammunition. You get plenty for completing medium and hard races by all 3 garages, so that's a simple way to stock up, but also seems like you lose money for dying? I'll have to double check that. Either way, all other versions are weirdly stingy with your cash.
People will hate you, Steve, if you're too stingy.
Thanks, man. That's cool.
But man, it's ugly. I don't really mind the frame rate going from silky smooth 60 frames per second in the races to somewhere in the mid-30s on the road. Why does this version look so much worse than every other version? I genuinely don't know, because it has all the effects that I like on Xbox and PS2, but it just looks muddy and lacks the sparks of pretty moments that kept the other console versions enjoyable to look at. I honestly thought the Wii would have been more powerful than the Xbox due to some great looking software, from Mario Galaxy to the original release of Xenoblade Chronicles, but after doing some Googling, I guess not? Also, this was an early release and didn't have time to make the most of the platform, but ugh. Comparing all 3 side by side, you'll see that the Xbox and Wii versions both feature that fuzziness. Of course, there's an elephant in the room when it comes to the Wii footage I captured. I played through on the Wii U. That can't make that big of a difference, right? Well, fortunately I still have a Wii, so let's take a look at the Wii's component out versus the Wii U's backwards compatibility via HDMI. Oh. Well, I guess there is a bigger difference than I imagined. The lack of detail and blurry textures are still an issue, but friends, it does look better. However, I'm not going to replay a 15-hour Wii port of Driver Parallel Lines to get better footage, but this does let me know for next time if I'm capturing a Wii game, I'm going to do it on original hardware. Whoops. Let's call it a learning moment. Comparing all three side by side, you'll see the Xbox and Wii versions both feature that fuzziness. And once again, this is capturing off a Wii console directly for this comparison to avoid any worries about it being from the Wii U's blurry upscaling. Again, the PS2 is immediately noticeable for the much better shading and details on the cars, and objects appearing more detailed in the distance. The Xbox really does have better textures when you stop and look at them. The Times Square opening shows the big differences between all three consoles. Of course, if we're talking about smooth aiming, the PC version is also quite playable with a mouse and keyboard. Combat is still tuned like the console versions, meaning enemies are very accurate and persistent, and you can die quickly. Guns don't feel as accurate as the Wii version, and enemies take more damage, so you're not pointing and shooting your way through a crowd of cops or gangsters the way you would on Wii. You can take on bad guys at point-blank range with headshots, and it still takes a few hits to down them. While I totally can understand those who want a much tougher game experience than the Wii version, to me, shooting humans who don't even flinch in the face over and over before they die isn't particularly fun. Having quick 1 or 2 hit kills makes the firefights more satisfying, and I wish the difficulty could have been ramped up in another manner than making all the bad guys bullet sponges. Unfortunately, swapping between the controller and mouse and keyboard requires a menu swap, unlike DRIV3R, which allowed me to set up the controller for driving and mouse for shooting. When I came to the PC version of DRIV3R, I found setting up the controls a bit of a nightmare. The menus frustrating to navigate, and the whole Miami map looked far too sparse at 1080p, with not enough detail to help fill in the higher resolution. That's why I recommended the Xbox or PS2 version over it. Plus, there's the additional detail that DRIV3R is no longer available for sale on PC or any console, so you'd have to track down a copy of it one way or another. For Parallel Lines, the PC version is much improved, with far better texturing, lighting, and models than its console counterparts. It's available on Steam and GOG, making it far easier to get a hold of, and supports controllers without any pain or customization needed. It's strange because looking at it in isolation I thought, well, this doesn't look much better than DRIV3R on PC. But going back and comparing the two, oh yeah, this is better. And switching between the PS2, Xbox, and Wii versions highlight how next generation the PC port feels. I'm not sure why this version rubbed me the wrong way at first, but going back now to finish the game on PC really makes me appreciate this version, especially its instant fast travel feature, which makes navigating between quests far faster than any other version. Why didn't they put this in any other release? So which one should you play? I'd say if you like light gun games and have a Wii or Wii U still plugged in, give this one a go. The Wii port is cheap, not rare, and just a better time than the PS2 and Xbox versions. If you want to see the game looking and performing its best, definitely go with the PC port. I'm surprised Ubisoft Reflections never made a 360 port of the game, which had been out for almost a year when Parallel Lines released, and for almost 2 years when the Wii and PC ports came out. Let's get to the nitty-gritty and do a comparison of some of the most interesting locations in Driver Parallel Lines across all versions. Start with a look at a kind of quiet, boring area, this parking lot around the Jersey Speedway garage. The Horizon has the Twin Towers, you've got some good lighting on TK. I'd give the edge to the Xbox over PS2, easily, for its buttoned down 30 frames per second performance over the PS2. Plus, in its progressive mode, it's easier to make out the genuine details. Textures on the Wii version are the lowest of any console version, especially when just driving by. I like this little shop area of Brooklyn as an example of the game looking good when it has an appropriate density of detail, though again you'll see it varying between each port. I'd say areas like this in Chinatown highlight the best of what Reflections do with this game. On PS2, the interlacing helps give it more of a perception of detail, even if textures are a little worse than what the Xbox does. Overall, I had the most fun playing this on Wii, even though it was the ugliest looking port of the game by far. It's not going to be for everyone. The rebalanced combat changes made by Ubisoft in Spain are not going to work for a lot of people who like the much more challenging traditional driver games. There's a lot less enemies and they do a lot less damage, Turning around with the Wiimote and nunchuck is also a pain in the couple of close quarter battles you get into towards the end of the game, but the light gun shooting during combat is so fun, and the enemies are tuned to be killed with a shot or two. Not sure if that's a distinct difference between versions or a side effect of the Wiimote being more accurate. The only time the Wiimote controls made the game noticeably harder was during the final section. It took a couple of runs on PS2 to get the funneled path correct while shooting down Corrigan's helicopter, but it was easy to lock on while driving and keep shooting while steering. On Wii, I just wasn't doing enough damage, and kept having Corrigan fly off the end of the road in the chase. That never happened to me on PS2. However, I do remember this being a problem when I originally played the game back in 2006 on Xbox. In the end, I found the snub-nosed machine gun to be a better damage output than that weird FAMAS-looking rifle, and I never, ever could hit the helicopter with a grenade launcher, so I stopped trying.
$9.99. Oh, you can eat lobster. The missile strikes.
Did not.
Destroy the helicopter.
The PC port is the best looking version of the game by a long shot, but is Driver Parallel Lines a good looking game? I don't know. Normally I could make this call easily. The Getaway was charming with some great textures, lighting, and motion capture, but weirdly didn't look that great driving around the city. The PS2 Grand Theft Auto games had a cartoonish stylized look to them that grows on me as time passes, especially at night or with intense weather. Look great. Mercenaries mostly looked like butt, but had some good indoor scenes and played well. Saints Row the Third Remastered and Saints Row 2022 were both gorgeous. The Simpsons Hit and Run was fine. Is Driver Parallel Lines a good-looking game? Bad-looking game? Call it Stockholm Syndrome, but there are some moments in every version of the game where I'm like, yeah, this looks alright. That's a pretty sunset. I like the shine on the cars, and this game is a hero that kidnapped me for my own good, and I'll do whatever it says. Rob a bank? Sure. Parallel Lines' 1978 city is bathed in orange, but it still sometimes ends up feeling muddy brown and beige when it's blurred at speed. When it switches to 2006, it's all bathed in whites, blues, and grays. Sure, compared with the first two PS1 games, Parallel Lines cities are way more detailed, and have a draw distance that lasts blocks and blocks, and not about 100 meters ahead of you like in the PlayStation ones. But day and night feel more dramatic in those games. Then again, on a slow, traffic-filled drive across the Brooklyn Bridge on the Xbox version, how I played the game originally, I don't know. I can see why this impressed me at the time. There's a nice sense of scale, the textures and lighting look good, but then you remember it's just 3 storefronts repeated over and over in each area. Now that's 3 different sets of storefronts in each part of the city, but still. Is it diminishing returns from the Stuntman engine? While it runs much better, except when things get hairy, it doesn't have the detail and special feel of the best parts of DRIV3R and Stuntman. Part of this could be setting the game in New York City, as DRIV3R Miami was the blandest looking and least appealing of those cities, while the European locations of Istanbul and Nice had some eye-catching detail that worked well on consoles. It just doesn't look as good, and the environments feel more copy and pasted generic textured buildings than in previous games. There are some areas where the granular detail on every console except Wii are impressive, as are the amount of traffic, varied models, and the nice look of the sunrise and sunset. There's some good art design the way light glints off vehicles, and a subtle bloom effect used on consoles during the 70s that is effective without being overdone. Yet I can't help feeling disappointed with this, especially coming at the tail of the 6th generation. Going back and playing Stuntman again, the detail of this game's admittedly much smaller areas destroy the way that tunnels, alleys, and industrial areas looked in Parallel Lines. As a refresher, Stuntman was almost a demo of the engine upgrades they were working on for DRIV3R, bringing this game to PS2, and it featured 6 movies you were doing stunts for, 3 to 5 stunt runs for each film. These ended up playing like a cross between Driver 1 and something like Trials Evolution, where you had to hit certain moments and file specific actions for a star rating at the end of the run. This was super novel in 2002, and is the kind of run-based gameplay loop that's far more popular today. What I really wanted from the PS2 era of driver games was basically the toothless and whopping and hootin' and hollerin' brought together and expanded. Sure, it's not realistic to expect that level of detail for everything, But if they could have focused some of it on the big locations, outside of Parallel Lines' Times Square, which does look great in both eras, and made sure the environments you had to get into gunfights with or explore often be created with that level of detail, I would have been happier with the look and style of Parallel Lines. Like, take this big shootout around Corrigan's Manor. This looks very PS1, almost incomplete. This is the kind of location that would have made the game feel overall more of a crafted experience with time spent to flesh it out, add detail, add geometry. But another factor of Stuntman feeling better was a better presentation in and around the cars, with more diverse traffic, a fantastic immersive in-car view, and more carefully placed objects that have more satisfying physics when you smash into them. Let's go outside the driver engine and look at what can be done on PS2 with Gran Turismo 4's Times Square. Or Project Gotham Racing's New York track, both running at 60 frames per second. GT4 is particularly gorgeous, and it looks incredible, especially given the system it's running on. Okay, you say, but these are racing games. They don't have the same kind of car deformations, pedestrians, car AI, and other factors making open world games work. True Crime, New York's weather effects, reflections, and detailed world do show what is possible on a 6th generation console. True Crime doesn't have anywhere near the deformation and physics of Driver's Engine, and the driving model, of course, but Parallel Lines doesn't offer any kind of weather or reflections. The screen space reflections on True Crime's rear windows are pretty neat, but kind of an early tech trick that doesn't seem planted in reality, especially compared with those in Gran Turismo 4. Finally, what about Grand Theft Auto? Parallel Lines came out a year and a half after San Andreas and lacks that game's massive scope and variety of surroundings, as well as, again, the weather effects. Still is a better driving model than GTA games, though San Andreas added better modeled suspensions and racing compared with the two earlier ones. When it comes to modeling of New York City, or at least a New York City like Liberty City, Parallel Lines is 4.5 years after the release of GTA 3, 3 years after the Xbox version, and 2 years earlier than the generation-defining take on Liberty City with GTA 4 on 360 and PS3. Parallel Lines does Times Square well. 2 years later though, and Times Square on PS3 is gorgeous, Rockstar's Rage engine looking years ahead of what Driver was doing on last generation consoles. On PC things are a lot better, lighting looks great and uses a sort of Half-Life 2 style high dynamic range. You will notice though that on the PC version and the Wii version, the Sesher LED watch sign doesn't load in properly, and never will. Obviously on an RTX 3080, frame rates are locked solid. Donkey Kong's character model is weirdly shaded, but more detailed, and the textures used are much more detailed. One funny note, over in Brooklyn there's a shop front window with a bit of an Easter egg. On Xbox, Wii, and PS2, you can tell it's a shop window, but not read any of the signs or make out any of the details. It's a smeary mess of pixels. On the PC version, which again was released a year later, the higher res version of these textures are used, and look what you can see here. In this store's window, there's a big old Grand Theft Auto San Andreas poster. Now my unproven theory is that this was snuck in as a bit during the initial development of the game on consoles, as the poster would never be readable or really visible. However, it was left as is when the high-res versions of the textures were used on PC. Is this true? Who's to say? The high-resolution textures are quite nice, and I did get a chuckle out of the sign for suspiciously expensive DVDs as advertised at $49.95 USD in 1978, which would have been incredibly expensive given the value of the dollar at the time, and also some kind of weird time paradox. Yes, these textures were used in both time periods. Each area of Jersey, Manhattan, and Brooklyn has a set of shop windows and other textures used on buildings, and they repeat far more often than, say, the textures in GTA 3. The Portland area of GTA 3 on Xbox had nicely high-resolution textures used for its buildings that were, perhaps, a little more varied, though all of them would repeat pretty often too. Comparing the original trilogy PC version of GTA 3, which you can still buy directly from Rockstar's store, to Parallel Lines, you can see that Driver has the advantage of overall quality of the car models, physics, and density of location detail. With San Andreas though, they're getting fairly even. Both are obviously ports of a 6th generation console game and limited by this. Again, this was when PCs were really moving to the next generation of game graphics and design, with 2004's Half-Life 2 featuring detailed facial modeling, lighting, and textures.
Can't take too long or they'll get suspicious. I'm way behind on my beating quota.
Or Doom 3's use of light and dark. And of course, released 3 months later than Parallel Lines in 2007, you got Crysis, an incredible display of what could be done with new hardware coming out that year. Oh, and compared with Grand Theft Auto 4, released a year later on console but 3 years later on PC, the difference is stark. Parallel Lines was one of the last of that generation of PC software, and feels it, especially graphically. Overall, though, here's my thoughts that are coalescing around the look of the game. Visually, this game's lack of detail is disappointing. Still a reasonably good-looking game, yeah, but with the bespoke locations, detail, and baked-in time-of-day lighting from DRIV3R and Stuntman, it really could have been a bit more special. Maybe it just needed more time. So what happened to Reflections after this? Reflections isn't gone. They are now Ubisoft Reflections. And it still maintains a separate identity, which is not unique. There's Massive, for instance, but still is unusual within the Ubisoft corporate structure. After Driver Parallel Lines, Reflections with Sumo Digital co-developed Driver76 for the PSP, a game I'll definitely be covering in a future cow entry, as this is a fully fledged open-world drivey-shooty crime game. And it's impressive on PSP, even if the frame rate is, well, it's pretty chuggy. I'm going to spoil a point from the eventual review by saying if you do want to know more about the now-dead Ray, as he's the star of this prequel, check it out on your PS Vita. It's still available for download, at least of September 2025, and on Vita the game is remarkably smoother. Like, holy crow, how much better that runs. Also notable is that at the end of each mission, every message is presented with a bullet shot, like that one Simpsons joke. In 2011, 3 separate Driver games released, which means there's plenty more Driver to check out for cow. There's Driver San Francisco for PS3, 360, and PC. That's the bonkers one, with the warping between people to solve their problems and capture Jericho one last time. That one I'm familiar with, but I didn't know that the Wii version, it's a whole different game. Still has a selection of 70s off-brand cars from Parallel Lines, but combined with a few licensed ones, it seems to be running on the older DRIV3R Parallel Lines engine in a cartoony comic style that frankly looks pretty neat. I'm not sure it's going to be the best Driver game out there, but it sure looks interesting and graphically ahead of Parallel Lines on Wii by a large margin.
This!
There's also Driver Renegade, the 3DS outing. I'll definitely have to wait until I've got my new 3DS XL HDMI modded to play, but I'm excited to give it a shot. Driver76, the Wii, Driver San Francisco, and Renegade all have what I'm going to call the last-gen motion comics look, where lower-budget drivey-shooty open-world crime games opt for motion comics or just straight-up illustrations to tell their stories. This happens a lot. Outside of the Driver series, some of the games they've worked on over the years include the Just Dance series, The Crew, work on the Division series, and the cult classic Grow Home and Grow Up games. Surprisingly, as a car and racing game guy, I never really got into The Crew, or The Crew 2, though I do have a copy of The Crew Motorfest on PC. They've also worked on the driving model for the Watchdog games, which, although not car-focused, does feature a surprisingly broad range of vehicles. And yep, they all control very much in the vein of the Driver games, if you've been missing that. But I've also spent way too much time in a solo-type EV in Watch Dogs 2 as well. If you're going to offer a variety of vehicles, I'm going to end up messing around with the goofiest ones, for sure. Alright, I guess it means it's time for a real review and ranking. I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's do this. Obviously, these numbers will be completely objective, based solely on the fact I say they are. Let's start with graphics. 3 out of 5 Koobs. While there are some great moments, like the Brooklyn Bridge and Times Square, overall it just doesn't have the visual density and care of its competitors in the open world genre at the time. While there are definitely parts that look way better than in San Andreas has more diversity, scope, and character to its world. A couple of ways it feels like a step back from the locations in DRIV3R, especially Nice and Istanbul, but this can, to some degree, be chalked up to the American location. Though if you're going to go for an American city that benefits from care with the details, New York City would be that. Only a few places like Chinatown live up to what I think Reflections can do at their best. Take a point away if you're looking at the dreadfully ugly Wii version. Maybe add a point if you're playing the PC version. It looks pretty good for 2007. Story, 3 out of 5 Koobs. The opening half of the game in 1978 doesn't work very hard to get you to care about TK. It's missing humanizing moments and good-natured missions about the fun being a freewheeling dirtbag on the loose in New York City. When Corrigan is introduced late in the 1978 act, the stakes are raised and things get better. While I don't love the payback style of revenge thriller that the 2006 section is based on, the cutscenes are efficiently told, with some good action and camera work. I still wish it was presented in engine, but what are you gonna do? This is no Metal Gear Solid 2. While the star-studded cast of DRIV3R seems like a waste of resources, I do feel like it ended up telling a longer and more interesting story, while parallel lines can be summarized on a napkin. Guy comes to New York City to be a dirtbag, gets to have some fun, slowly meets a crew, gets used by the crew as a patsy, comes back 28 years later as an angry, revenge-focused death machine. Okay, that story actually doesn't sound so bad. Open world, 2 out of 5 Koobs. There's stuff to do that I like, and it gives you a lot of spaces to get to know, but it's just not that far ahead of DRIV3R as it really should have been by this point. The fact that the super jumps and stars don't really give you anything, there's no reason to explore on foot, there's a very limited number of side activities, just doesn't feel super well fleshed out. Add boring NPCs that don't do much except scream and run at a moment's notice, and cops who will only ever focus on you and never anyone else except through one specific mission. It's too limited and not fully developed. Add to it that you'll spend far too long getting to where you need to go in every version of the game except for PC, and navigating before actually getting to your mission can end up being more of a time sink in this game than the missions themselves. On foot, 2 out of 5 Koobs. It's better than DRIV3R. It doesn't feel like playing Doom in an open world game now, which is a plus, but honestly, Doom is still more fun. Okay, maybe DRIV3R played more like Blake Stone in an open world game. At any rate, Parallel Lines has improved targeting, but the open world sections are miserable on everything except Wii. You'd think the PC version would be better, and it is, but only slightly, and still the combat area design and bullet sponge nature of the opponents make it a slog. Except on Wii, where it's dumb light gun fun, though actually turning the camera is not great. Still at a point here for playing on Wii. Driving, 4 out of 5 Koobs. Still fun! It's weird how some elements are tuned better for different versions. The Wii has almost no dead zone to the nunchuck analog stick, which is actually pretty good, and the Xbox uses the full range of triggers as well. Unfortunately, using the tilt function of the nunchuck for slight turning and handbrake turns is just terrible, negating any advantages this version would have behind the wheel. Grand Theft Auto 4 was the first GTA game to catch up on how well Reflections tuned the physics and handling of the cars here. I enjoyed the racing minigames quite a bit, and even with the heaviest traffic turned on, for the most part, the dispersal of cars was generous enough to give you a pathway to weave through one lane or another and get where you're going. Add to that, dynamic chases that can end early with a good smash. You've got a great driving game with only a couple of issues, namely traffic clogging and the irritating cop chases. Total? 15 out of 25. Hey, guess what? It's better than DRIV3R. This feels right, objectively. I can't argue with the numbers. I made them up personally. It's much less broken, the on-foot sections are less terrible, and it still drives well. Thanks for staying with me through this episode of Koobert Opens Worlds. Go ahead and gently depress that like and subscribe button, please. They're very delicate. They might break. Also check out the rest of the ranking reviews I've done so far, and I've been expanding out into all sorts of new areas. Got my first Vita review with Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012, there's a new Bears in Motion series, where I'm going to be looking at games that make you use your hands like a baby's toy, or Kinect, or are in VR, or maybe use their voice. I've been making more shorts, and don't worry, they aren't taking any time away from working on mainline videos. It's just more like, hey, I have a short idea for a Blue Sky thread or something, why not make a video about it instead? So that's what those are about. I've also got my Switch reviews, there's one on Grandia 2 coming, and my Johnny Rant series where I've talked about the PSN store, and finally, PS3 4x3, which I'd like to come back this fall. Wait, one more. There's also my Queer Gaming History series, where I've most recently looked at the Galians of Star Control 1 and 2. The next time will be on Makoto, one of the most interesting gay characters we've seen in gaming, in the baffling JRPG Enchanted Arms.
You're getting in the way!
Want to hear more about JRPGs? Check out Jim, Vanessa, Matthew, and I as we go through your favorite classic RPGs and other games on our book club podcast Square Roots, where we play a game a chunk at a time and then talk about it. Check it out on your Apple Podcasts, your Spotifys, your Ganas, or your Podcasts addict. That's the Square Roots podcast, the one about video games.
I'll go there now.
Thanks to Matthew Van Zandt for his legally distinct song, Sad Earth. And the backing track was from Clack Guga GA. Link to their 8-bit cover of Mad World in the video description. Music in this video is from the Tekken 2 Arranged soundtrack by Namco, Sega's Sonic CD Japanese and American soundtracks, and Luxoflux's PlayStation 1 Vigilante 8 soundtrack. Thanks to Borzilla /Julio /El Chunkarino for his great work on my PNG tuber models, and the music in the series is from the original Driver and Tekken 2 and the Sonic CD soundtrack. Links to Square Roots, Borzilla's work, and the OSTs for Sonic CD and Tekken 2, and any video clips I've used are in the description below. Thanks, and I love you. Platonically. Don't make it weird. Next time on Koobert Opens Worlds, take me down to the lovely Vice City, where the coke is white, and the girls are nightmarish monsters. Please take me home. Yeah.